Welcome to Self-Perfected.
Ready? Everybody look at the camera. Hey, welcome. I hope you enjoyed the second installment of our intro. Oh, no, I'm not doing it. All right.
Take two or just fuck
You
it.
ready?
No, fuck it.
Hey, welcome.
Okay.
Hey, welcome. I'm just waiting for you guys to stop doing it. As soon as I say welcome, we're like,
Okay, Cameron, you clap. You clap when we're ready.
hey, ready? Hey, welcome to the Self-Perfected podcast. And this is the podcast where we always start by me asking everybody about how their weekend was. So that's how we warm up and roll into the crazy stuff. So
I want to hear from Asif. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Oh, man, what were you
Asif.
gonna say, dude?
Was that
Mitch, I
gathering
wanna hear-
legal or illegal,
I
Asif?
think it's legal. I don't know.
With the amount of people you had.
I can't keep track. I cannot keep
We are
track.
not confirming or denying whether this actually occurred. This could just be a dream that Asif had. But Asif, please tell us about your dream weekend.
I call it I call it a mental mastermind.
It's not where I thought that was going, but okay.
Drake, you should totally include all of the mistakes.
yeah. I'm
That's
planning
hilarious.
Well, now you
Dude,
have to, because otherwise that makes no sense what you just said. So now we have to include all those. Great.
I don't know. We could leave it mysterious too.
exactly. And then we can make it one of those clips. Maybe not. It's too much work. Anyways, we're all about quality.
The least amount of work.
Yeah. The least amount of work over.
It's all about systematizing things.
Yeah.
I'm not lazy. I'm just systematic.
Oh,
That's a shirt.
that's a shirt.
Ooh.
We've got lots of shirts that we never
That's
make.
no, yeah.
It's like we come up with a band name you're never going to form.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Hang on. What was it? I'm not lazy. I'm just systematic.
Yeah.
I literally have an ongoing note for the shirts.
Nice.
He's got the domain
Oh,
already.
we got some good ones.
Mitch, you want to turn down your mic a little bit?
You're still
Yeah.
a little
Okay.
hot.
So,
All right. So anyways,
I
Asif had a
can't
great
help it.
weekend and it was pretty cool.
Oh,
Tell us
man.
about it. Hot
Dude, it
mics.
was so cool. So me and Kian flew down for like a business thing Thursday morning, and we said, "Hey, Owen, like I know we were just talking yesterday, and I didn't tell you that I was coming to Toronto because I didn't know I was coming to Toronto. But hey, we're in Toronto. You want to hang out?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, that's great." So we met with this guy, did some business stuff, and actually he's actually somebody. It was an attorney, and he's somebody who ran for office back in 2008, federal office in Canada. So that was interesting.
That's cool.
So had a great time there. That went smooth. And then we were hanging out with Owen, and it was such a great time. He has this electric scooter, and we were just ripping it. It was hilarious. But it was a really, really great time. We had like a documentary going. We had a Bernard audio on the phone. We were like chatting about stuff. It was really cool. So then we ended up staying the night. We weren't going to, but we were just having a good time. So we'll just stay a night. And the business thing ended up taking 2 days anyways. So then afterwards, we're like, okay, how are we going to get home? Take the train or something? And then we're like, Owen, you want to come to Ottawa? He's like, well, today's Friday. Like, hey, yeah, I'd love to. So we all drove back together in his Benz. Nice, smooth ride. It was great.
not the electric scooter.
No, we didn't pile up on the electric scooter. Unfortunately, it only has like an hour of battery life. So that's the only reason. That's the only reason why we didn't do it.
You gotta get a lot of momentum.
Yeah, exactly. All three of us just on each other's backs. So he came down, and as he was coming down, I was like, Melat, Owen's coming down. Is that cool? Like I asked her beforehand, and then we were like, yeah, let's.
She's like, is that cool? He's like, yeah, okay, come on in, Owen. It's like right there at the door.
No, I asked her beforehand. She said it was cool. I was like, cool. Let's invite everybody over because we have the.
So that was impromptu.
Yeah,
That's
That wasn't like a
dope.
planned week.
Holy shit. That's dope.
that's pull. We do a clubhouse every 2 weeks, and this was the in between week. So I just said, hey, Owen's coming down. Just like a message to our little group chat. Hey, Owen's coming down. Potluck at our place at 4 p.m. Come on down, right? So people are like, hey, can I bring this person? Can I bring this person? Yeah, for sure. So usually our clubhouse is like around at this point it's like 12 people, which is like pretty cool because it started off with like me and my brother, like nobody.
Trying to sell each other.
More so just talking about the points and people wouldn't show up and all that. But let me just get situated. Is that still okay? My sound still okay?
Mhm.
There was 19 people there. Most people we ever had to the house. And it was a fucking time. It was awesome. There was like people that, so one of the people was our osteopath. It was hilarious because she was really cool. And she was telling the story about how as an osteopath, she lost like a couple of clients because they didn't want her to be treating them because she's not vaccinated. Right. And so she's losing faith in humanity. She's telling us this story at the club, the potluck, because I heard her. I was upstairs and I heard her say, I just feel like I'm at the right place at the right time. And I kept, anybody who was coming in and I was introducing, I'm like, this is my osteopath. And this is her husband. Like she brought her fiance, her husband as well. They were so cool. They were awesome. And there was another guy, Henny, who was really cool as well. He just recently got Technotutor, so that's exciting. The cool part was everybody just hanging out. We started at 4. People must have left at like 10, 11, something like that. Usually we book it for like 2 hours, but just the whole time, Will, you guys remember Will Gregoire?
Yeah.
He's come back into our lives. And he's like,
it's about time, Will, if you're watching this.
Yeah, he made some good investments, and he was telling me, he's like, yeah, like and then I was like denying it for some time, and then I realized the only reason I made that money, it's because of Technotutor. And I started like belly laughing. I was like, this is hilarious. And he explained to me, he's like, look, there's these 2 documents that I was going to try to read in order to understand the investment. And I went to read it and literally none of it made sense. And I was just not going to do it. But then and it wasn't about an investment. It was just about the world,
the context.
Like, exactly. The patterns, where you would come up with the patterns. Then he said he put in all the vocabulary into Technotutor, went through that, read it again. It was probably over a span of on and off for like about a month, kind of like doing it like a hobby almost, over a month time. Read both of the documents. All of it made sense. He put all of his money into it because he had zero fear. Think about that. He got educated and he had zero fear, because where does fear come from?
Lack of education is this.
But first, exactly. What's the first step?
Doubt.
Exactly. Doubt comes from inequality. Inequality comes from lack of education. Change the lack of education to education. Because all education it's just the words. Like it's not.
Was this something he did totally on his own?
Exactly.
Like nothing to do with anybody. Yeah. Wow.
Lone wolf.
Just using his Technotutor.
Exactly.
Wow.
And dude, like this is somebody who's used it for a lot of really cool things in the past, like different habits that he was trying to break and all that stuff. But because he was away, he was isolated. His job, the nature of it was you work he was the IT guy for a mine. And at the mine, you would work there for 14 days, like 12-hour days, and then you'd have 14 days off. And that just like fucks with your schedule, right? So he like so many things he had to work through, but he was never consistent in being part of the environment. So he just kind of drifted away, right? And because of that, is like you kind of fall off of everything because your environment is not supporting that, right? That's why we have self-perfected. That's why we have a local community. That's why we have all of these points. It's to be that foundation, that soil, the oxygen, the heat, the water to make the tree grow, the environment, right? So he does that. He comes back. It was funny because the first time he made his reappearance, it was when we were in Toronto, in Hamilton, with Rob and Leah and their family and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
And I was saying, hey, like Megan and Carl, you guys should host a clubhouse instead of us, right? And so they held like a beach day, because they were setting up
in Ottawa.
House. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay. When you guys were in Toronto,
right? Exactly. So we were gone, and I was like, hey, like, you guys should host something. And Megan was mentioning how they're setting up their house because they put their house up for sale.
Yeah.
I said, just do like a picnic or something like that. She's like, oh, that's great. So she handled all that, and it was really cool. So I saw Will call, like he's been in the Clubhouse group chat that we had, but he's never responded, right? Because he's gone or whatever. Then I just see his message come up like, "Hey, I'll come." And I'm like, this bastard. And I'm thinking he's gonna come and then he's gonna disappear again, right? But then he came to this and he's like, asked if you want to have a serious talk. I'm ready to have a serious talk. And yeah, he just tells me everything. And he's like, yeah, I'm ready to, I see that this is it. Like, this is the answer. And by no influence by anybody else. It was just him on his own, doing his own thing, putting it to the test. Right. So he's going to be, well, I'm not going to talk about his plans, but our paths are just like merging, so it's really exciting. So that was one of the conversations out of the 20 conversations that I had with the 19 other different people. I talked to myself in one of those scenarios twice. So that's why there's 20 conversations. But it was so awesome because there was a lot of new connections made, but also the particular point of, okay, I went to my osteopath. When I go to my osteopath, I went twice. We're connecting over one thing. You're treating me. I don't know her stance on anything else. I don't know anything else, right? But I wasn't the one to invite her because I didn't go for the last week kind of thing. Muge went on Friday or Thursday or something like that. And the osteopath asked, what are you up to this weekend? And she said, oh, we're having like a potluck and all that stuff. And then we worked out to, she invited her over. She's like, yeah, like you should bring your fiance as well. Like that would be great, And that's why she came. When she came and they came into the house and all that stuff, we're hanging out. We do hugs and they're like, man, this is so good. Like nobody hugs anymore. Like, just that whole thing. Right. And right away they're just on board with everything. Just all of it. And I'm like, this is so cool. This is a big lesson. You never know. You cannot prejudge if you haven't talked to the person and opened up the points and all that about what, quote unquote, what somebody might stand for, what they might not stand for. Right. And that was like a really, really cool lesson because now she wants to host us all at her place and all this stuff, which is just so cool. It's like such an important connection. So just watching me not even having to be there because, in due time, me and Maylat and eventually Ken and Muge won't be there anymore. But to see that it's growing into something that we don't need to be there for is something really, really, really amazing.
That's cool.
So it was a really, really awesome weekend. And then having Owen here. So he's been here, he's leaving today and he was going to leave last night, but the conversations just got too good. So we ended up we're masterminding a lot. Like we had went out last night because he wanted to see the sights a little bit. So we went downtown, went by Parliament and all that stuff and got some food and all that. And on the drive back home, again, crazy conversations. And he got home and he got out of his car because Maylat was driving. She wanted to drive the Benz, right? So we get out of the car and Owen's like, man, my mind has been so expanded from when I just got from the short time I've been in Ottawa. It's crazy. I didn't even hear him say that about the gin event. And I know for a fact that gin event changed his life, right?
Yeah.
But just in terms of like the stretch, because now he's an area distributor, I can tell him everything. You guys know what I'm talking about. You guys,
well, don't tell him about that one time with me and you in the.
That's for regional distributions.
Yeah. Once he's a regional, then we can talk about that.
Maybe once when he's in Texas, right?
We can just show him.
Okay. That's a good idea, actually. If he passes the test, yeah.
That is the test.
The really cool thing about Owen is he's really teachable. Right away, gets on board with everything we're doing, books his tickets to Minneapolis for a fun fucking time, for a big event coming up, right? I don't know what it is. I forget what it is. I forget who's even living there and stuff like that, but it's something important. And then
for the cause.
We're going to break down Mitchell's house.
Protest.
Yeah. Protest is funny. Protest making love real. Yeah. No, we're going down for Mitch and Jess's wedding, which is going to be unreal. So he already booked his stuff for that, like way back. He already booked his stuff for Texas, all of that. And he's fully plugged in. He let go of his what he thought was important to him. He's like, yeah, like that's not even important. Like, I remember I asked him, right, this is how much he's changed. I've known him for a month. I've known him for 1 month. And a month ago, I asked him, so what's your chief aim? Like, what's the dream? I forget what question I asked him. I think it was the chief aim. And he said, blissful soccer. That's what he said. He said, I want to be at Bliss playing soccer, or financial abundance. I kind of bounce between the two sometimes. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I just gathering for where he's at. And now it's like he's totally different. And we were sitting, me, him, Kian, at his place. And he was talking about like, man, like things have changed so much. Like, I don't even think about soccer anymore. It's like not even important to me. I'm like, tell Kian what you told me your chief aim was a month ago. He's like, blissful soccer. He kind of liked it, like the way he said it was like blissful soccer, you know? And it's just so cool. In 1 month, somebody can change their entire purpose, what they place value on, their environment, their friends, what's important to them. And, you know, he's like, he wasn't sure about kids, but now he's absolutely certain about kids. And how many kids does he want to have? And he's, you know, he's locking down the point of a partner, right? Which is really exciting. And so all of these points just happening like this, it's because he's really teachable. He's like, he's really open. He wants to figure things out. He wants to move. And it's just been really cool spending this whole weekend with him and taking him deeper. So we're going to be, I know that he's a lifelong friend, which I'm really excited about. So it's been really cool, like hanging out, spending that time together. I think I said, this is what I said. I said, Owen, I was sitting at his place. I said, Owen, you know, oh no, it was in the living room down here. He's sitting on the couch. I was sitting on the other couch. I said, Owen, you're the most teachable person that I've met since. And then he said, Jesus. I said, no, since Mitch. And he said, yeah, Jesus. But
Morpheus,
yeah.
actually, but yeah.
What'd you say?
Morpheus, actually.
Morpheus. But it's been really cool. It's been really, really cool, right? So he reminds me of
Cool.
Mitch, his level of teachability. So that's always like really, really, really high.
This is what people are looking for, like what we're doing. And it's like, I always feel like I have to clarify when I say something like that, because it's like, it's not about like what we're doing, like as in it's coming from the greatness that is us.
Although
you know
we are great.
but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like, oh, look what we've done and we've created this amazing thing for other people and blah, blah, blah. It's really not what it is. It's just taking a set of principles and holding yourself to that and being like, okay, if I'm going to hold myself to these principles, I'm going to be honest with myself and look at reality and look at how I can be of service to this reality and to myself. Like, what can I do? And then using the tools that we have. Technotutor is such an important one because it's supported me to be able to, like, two major things, like be able to see more clearly and bigger what I need to do, what we need to do, right, and so forth. Because it's like, instead of just guessing at something like, well, I think, you know, like, I don't even know what to say. It's like, we're not just guessing. We're like looking at what's going on and seeing like, how can we have an impact here? How can we support this to change and be different? And then the other part of it is to support myself to let go of those things that would get in the way of that, right, within myself. You know what I mean? Like, one of the big things that I've had to walk through was letting go of a lot of the internalized anger within myself that I got from my childhood. You know, and then I see other areas where that comes up and then I have to like walk through that, you know. And I even sat down with my kids one time and I was like telling them, like, you know, we were outside having some chocolate milk. And I was like, hey, I just want to tell you guys, you know, the past couple of days, I realized I've been kind of irritated and like expressing some anger towards things, like towards you guys and so forth. And I apologize, right? Like, it's not best, right? And I realize where it comes from, a lot of it. So my parents, when I was a kid and so forth, but I've accepted it. So now I'm seeing even more ways where it's coming out, and I apologize. And I'm working on changing that within my techno tutor, and just that feedback and forgiving myself. And my kids were just like, okay, like I was just telling them, right? Just as an example, right? And so I use my techno tutor to support myself with that self-forgiveness, right? And so I'm just saying, like, when I talk about like, oh, what people, like what I said, this is what people wanted, this is what people want, what we're doing. We're just doing the best thing that we can see. I mean, it is the best thing, right? But I'm saying that we can see for those who need a little bit of a softer approach for their ego. You know what I mean? Like, okay, well, it's the best that you can see. Fine. It's like, well, it's actually the best thing, right? But somebody might think that's egotistical, but it's really just their ego is the problem, right?
Right. We were having this conversation. We were walking around downtown. Malat and Owen were talking about Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, and Owen was kind of like, yeah, like they're talking about how they're making money off of their, like, they advertise for different products or whatever the case may be. And they're talking about, or Owen had asked a question, great question. He said, well, yeah, but like, what's the difference between like the Self-Perfected podcast and Candace Owens podcast or Ben Shapiro's podcast? And Malat's like,
millions of views.
Right, exactly. She was making the point of like how, we're not looking for a following, all that stuff. And like, we actually are doing something. And Owen was making the point of like, yeah, but that's because we know, I know Asif, like, I know that he's doing, like, I know that he's doing, I could see it. But if people were just watching the podcast, what's the difference? And I was asking him, like, they had shared their points, and I just asked them, okay, so when you listen to Candace Owens' podcast or radio show, whatever, what's the difference? I said, okay, so Owen, like, what's Candace Owens' solution? He's like, doesn't have one. I'm like, what's Ben Shapiro's solution? Doesn't have one. Like, what are we saying? Like, what's the call to action for Candace Owens? He started laughing. He's like, listen to more of the podcast. I'm like, right, exactly. Right. Buy Express VPN, and that's gonna, she's just advertising that. But I was like, we're saying, okay, you actually, if somebody was listening to Ben Shapiro and they were like, oh my God, I love everything you're saying. Everything you're saying is absolute gold. What do I do? Got nothing. Candace, everything you're saying, absolutely amazing. Oh my God, I will do whatever you say. What do I do?
I was just watching a clip from Barricade Garage, and he was saying pretty much the same thing. It's just like a 4-minute clip of like, people think the truth will set you free. And he's like, that's bullshit. That's such bullshit, because you listen to some truth, or you think you're going to get some truth. You stay up, you get up early in the morning to go listen to this guy. He's like, he's going to reveal some stuff. And then they reveal some stuff. And now you feel good inside, because now you feel empowered to do battle with that guy over there. But what you find out is like, it's just a bunch of information. Like you're not doing anything with it. It's like, you just get all this information. You go, you talk to that person. They don't give a fuck about your truth, because that's how they define it, is like, it's your truth, right? Oh, okay. Yeah. Whatever you believe, that's good for you, but it has nothing to do with me. They have no consideration for what you've just learned or facts or anything like that. They already have their bubble that they're living in. And so you coming to them with this information isn't going to change anything for them. Right. But here's the funny thing about what he was saying. Funny thing, his solution was spirituality, which is like, okay, that's not a solution either, but he didn't know how to parse that. Like, oh, okay, well, if people just take in information and they don't do anything with it, and they are believing in this, the way he speaks is like, it really makes it really clear, of like it cuts through the bullshit, which I like about him. Right. But so he was saying, your truth, their truth, none of that is truth. There's the truth. And then what you think is true and what they think is true, it doesn't really matter. Right. And everyone has their different perspective, but that doesn't make it true. But what he was saying about that was basically like, if everyone is going to do that, we're not going to get anywhere because you've already decided essentially. And so for him, it was just like, I just have to go based on my faith and God and spirituality and all that. But that doesn't help.
But see, they don't see any way to bring everyone together.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's like, I have a thesis for you guys. Okay. I was just looking at this point.
Cameron's writing a thesis.
Yeah.
Oh, are you getting your PhD?
Yeah. I'm about to get my PhD right now. Okay.
PH stands for fat and D stands for dick, fat dick.
No, pretty huge dick. Come on.
Oh,
God.
Guys,
no. The H is
I'm a
lowercase.
fucking Nobel Prize winner in that. Give me a break. Okay. Okay. So in the past, right, let's say before the 30s, 40s, 50s era, right? The whole mindset of people was trying to follow God, right? Before the modern era, let's say, right, was trying to follow God. And so the system took advantage of that, right? And that's why you have kings and queens. It's like they're the representative of God, right? And so you would listen to the authority of the king and queen or the priest or whoever, right? But at a certain point, right, we know from Century of Self, right? What was it that Freud and then through him, Edward Bernays understood and learned how to exploit, which is what all the corporations and everybody learned how to exploit? What was it they were exploiting?
Like the impulses that are buried in our mind.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's the unconscious feelings, subconscious, unconscious feelings, right?
Yeah.
And they learned how to tap into that. So by the time the 60s came along and the revolution came along, they already knew how to manipulate all that within everybody. So they so everybody was starting to stand up and wake up and be like, hey, fuck all these stupid rules and like bullshit and like all this corporations and blah, blah, blah. It's just about love. So then they took that and they knew how to manipulate it. So then instead of having God be the driving force, it became love, right? So that's what everybody was chasing, was this point of love. It wasn't about God, really. It's about feelings and feeling good. And that's where consumerism really became big, right?
I'm going to need an appendix to this thesis.
Right. And then that's where spirituality turned from Christianity, right, into New Age spirituality, because it went from God to the love is the energy of the universe, right? But now we're past all that. We're now in the information age because everyone has access to information. So no one believes in God anymore. Everyone can see that love is bullshit. Because if love was going to save everything, look at the fucking world.
Hey, hang on.
It's the people who are the least loving who seem to be in charge of your life right now. Hold on. So in the information age, so in other words, we manipulated the word God before. Now then they manipulated the word love. So what's the word that's being manipulated now in the information age?
Truth.
Racism. Truth.
You see, so now it's about truth. It's about learning the truth, and the truth will set you free. And it's all about truth and fighting for truth. And like they're suppressing the truth and all this stuff, but it's not going to fucking make a difference because you don't have principles. Your truth is filtered through your perception, through your beliefs, through your unconscious, your subconscious. It's filtered through all that. And your starting point determines what you do with the truth. Instead of it, and so that's why, like you notice, we don't. If you read the principle, it's not about truth; it's about self-honesty. Because what is true? Bernard said it really well. He said the truth is just what's here physically. This is the truth right here in my hand. What's physically here is the truth. There is no informational truth. I mean, think about it. Philosophers have been trying to discover truth for eons. And it's just some kind of mystical, it's like a replacement for God or for love or any of that stuff. But what's the responsibility implied with truth? And so when you look at anybody, and it's not a criticism against Candace, she's got really cool points, or anybody else. It's just they don't have a solution because the solution implies responsibility for them and for the person listening to actually stand up within themselves and become self-honest and stand for a world that's best for all, a system that's best for all. So the truth is the daily suffering of all life on this planet. That's the only truth. There's no other truth. And the truth is not, the Rothschilds in 1947 founded the creation of Israel. Or who cares? Like, that's all really cool information, historical context, and so forth. But it's like, well, if everyone just knew that the Rothschilds were trying to control everybody, then they just would stop. Like, no, they wouldn't. They probably fucking are the ones behind the truth movement to expose them. So you'll give them more power. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know. In the information age, if your goal is truth, we have now something called fact checkers. You see what I'm saying? It's like there's all this, your truth, your opinion, and so forth. But isn't it the reality now that there's only one truth? And it's whatever the algorithms say is the truth in that moment. And the truth changes because the truth, according to a virtual digital representation of reality, is moldable, but physical reality is not. I mean, it is over time, but there's actual consequence. You can change a website and suddenly change what it said, and there's no consequence. Like, it's just what it is. Just now, it doesn't say that anymore. It says something different. That's not how reality works. Reality retains the scars of what you do to it.
Oh,
isn't it?
right.
Man.
So you have to look at the physical reality, the physical truth of what is here. And the only way you can really clearly do that is through principles. It's not through truth. It's through principles.
Whoa.
Because does that make sense? Like, meaning I can look at, is it true that you yelled at this person? Is it true? Yes. Well, see, it's like, yeah, but what was the starting point of yelling? Like, oh, they were about to get hit by a train. Or I was just yelling at them because I was angry because of something happened in the past that had nothing to do with that person. Like, the truth of it is so, like you said, that word parse, it's hard to parse the truth because all of your bias comes in. So if we're going to stand up in the information age when all truth is under attack, the only way to do that is through principles.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. I think we should break that down even further because that's like, you hit on so many good points there. Like,
good. Hey, I accept your thesis. Peer reviewed.
Sounds like the truth. Cameron, you're spitting the truth, bro.
Yeah, dude, that was the truth.
PhD, pretty
Hashtag
hard.
truth.
All right.
Dichotomy of what the truth is and what the truth isn't.
Pretty hard
decisions.
directiveness.
Directive. All right.
It's much more based than that.
So okay. First, with all that truth talk, I feel like I'm in a fucking George Orwell novel. Like, you know.
Okay, but like when someone says, oh, the Earth is flat or the Earth is round, and I'm like,
doesn't matter.
It's a fucking hologram. Like, what does it matter?
Yeah.
How is that going to help you feed your kids?
Yeah.
How is that going to help a child be educated properly?
Yeah.
Like I was on a phone call with Ali, right, in Australia. And he was asking me a question about, because he's still learning all this stuff that we're doing, right? He's fairly new to all this. And he was like, like, I'm watching everything you guys are doing with the kids and education and everything. And he was kind of asking us about how do we systematize, how do we formalize, but also formularize, if that's a word.
Yeah, I got you.
The process of using technotutor and so forth, right? And I was like, well, you don't really want to make it a formula. It's more of like, because it's like I explained to him, I said, what's the formula for using a paintbrush? I mean, I can tell you, you put it in the paint, you put it on the paper, and you'll be like, well, no shit. I'm like, well, exactly. Beyond that, there's a lot you can do with it. And there's a lot of nuance. And it's more like you want the physical one-on-one support of the person who's doing it. I don't want to know the step-by-step formula from like ehow.com of how to make a fucking sculpture. I want to like meet Donatello and him show it to me. Do you know what I mean?
The Ninja Turtle, right?
I want him to fucking bash me with his staff, with his bow staff until I get it right.
Splinter.
Wasn't Donatello a sculptor? He did that. He did that statue. He did that statue of David, right?
Fact check it.
Wasn't Donatello?
I don't
Truth
think that
check.
was
That was
Donatello.
Michelangelo.
Somebody find the truth on that.
Check out that sculpture, Donatello's David. Maybe it's not Donatello. Maybe it's
I
somebody
don't think
else.
that's Donatello.
Isn't it Michelangelo's David?
Owen, can you look it up? Somebody look it up. I don't want to look like an idiot.
Hey, he did make a David sculpture.
Oh, he did? No way.
My neighbors are probably like, what the fuck is going on?
Dude, this is insane.
Okay.
All right. So anyways.
Mitchell's getting impressed with the sculpture.
This is
Oh, that's
This
right.
is
He did
weird.
that David sculpture.
dude. David's
He's like,
wearing
it's like David's like, ew, Goliath, get away.
That's right. That
yeah,
one.
David looks like a
Very feminine.
very
feminine. Yeah. Okay.
Effeminate. Yeah, what the?
I remember that.
You want to learn from this guy?
It was the Only sculptor's name that I could think of in the moment.
Might learn from this guy. Well, he could definitely sculpt.
He definitely sculpt. He's got some unconscious biases.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of cool because he's representing him like he's like a little boy almost. Like, and he was
very different than Michelangelo David.
Yeah. Michelangelo.
I mean, if you think of
teen,
David as some like muscular dude, it kind of defeats the whole point of the story, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
It was like he was basically a kid. Like, I'm gonna fucking kill this dude. Okay.
Yeah.
He's like, go away. So what were we talking about?
You were talking about Donatello.
Drake.
How you were
talking
talking
about.
Formalizing the point.
Ally.
Okay, let me get back to the point.
Ally. Yeah.
Guys, I am trying to lecture here. Okay,
Nah.
settle down, class. This is why we need to get back on message now. But that wouldn't work for a podcast. You just stay on message the whole time. They're like, what do you want to talk about? Well, I have these 5 points. Cool. What do you think? Yes, I agree with these 5 points. You know, you're like, So anyways, Ali was asking me about all that stuff. And I was just explaining to him, like, it's not about formalizing it. It's about learning the basics and then getting full, like physical one-on-one and group support, like within a dynamic community environment and so forth. Right. And so, as part of it, he was like, towards the end of our conversation, he was like, well, it's all really great, man. He was like, just one more question. He was like, you know, like with where your kids are at, like, do you think at any point, you know, they would school be like a consideration? Like, would you be thinking, you know? And I was just like, okay, he doesn't quite get it yet, right? He doesn't quite get it yet. So I was like, hold on a second. And I went into the other room where the kids were playing. And I was like, hey, Max, can you tell me some stuff about, like, I don't know, something you've been learning lately? And then Max starts going on about like the planets, right? And he's like, I'm like, tell me about them. And he's like, well, there's 9 planets, right? Well, actually 8. And I was like, well, what's the 9th one? He's like, Pluto. And I'm like, well, why do you say, is it a planet? Or he's like, well, no. And I was like, why do you say no? He's like, well, scientists don't consider it a planet. That's what my 4-year-old said. And I was like, well, what do they consider? He's like, I would say it's considered a dwarf planet, right? And I was like, all right, well, what's the first planet closest to the sun? And he was like, Mercury. I'm like, what's the next one? He's like, Venus. Next one, Earth. Next one, Mars. What's next? Jupiter. What's next? Saturn. What's next? Uranus, Neptune, right? And I was like, what's something interesting about Jupiter that's unique about it? He goes, oh, it has a big spot on it, which is actually a storm. And I was like, okay, what's weird about Neptune or Uranus? He's like, oh, its rotation is different than the other planets, right? And like, I just start asking him all these questions, right? And I go, what's another, okay, you know, we talk about the moon and things like that, things that orbit things. What's another word for something that orbits? He's like, a satellite. I'm like, so would you consider the moon a satellite? He's like, yeah, it's a satellite. Because we had just learned about that the other day because I was talking about the satellite dish. We saw it up on the roof. We were talking about what's a satellite, right?
That's cool.
Point is, we had this whole conversation and then they started talking about the moon, right? And Seneca was like, do you know people go to the moon, right? And I was like, yeah. And I said, hey, Max, I said, let me ask you guys a question. Have people gone to the moon? And they were like, yeah. And I said, do you know that for sure? And they were like, well, no, that's what we believe. We think that. I mean, right. So we were talking about that. And I was just showing Ali, like, yeah, he's learned all this information, but we also know it's just information that someone has told us. We have not been able to verify it ourselves. There's points of evidence where we can back it up and so forth, but they understand at that young age. Yeah, well, we don't know. I mean, we've seen a video, someone went to the moon. Okay, cool. Well, I've seen a video of Transformers fucking destroying New York City. That didn't happen, you know? And like that, the graphics on that look more convincing than the other one. You know what I mean? So, but the point is I'm I told him, I'm not telling him to believe in conspiracy theories either. There's different sides to the argument. That's the truth. The truth in that context, honestly, is you don't fucking know.
Yeah.
You don't know the truth. Well, yeah, but I know because the shadows and this. Yeah, I know. That's all very convincing. But how do you know that's not fake?
Right.
And it was done on purpose to make you think the moon landing was fake. And you know what I'm saying? So we just teach our kids, like, here's information. We're not worried about them getting brainwashed by it because the words are clear. So it's like they can have that information. And when they get older and they get more evidence that the moon landing wasn't real, they're not going to be like, what? I was lied to, because they didn't believe it in the first place. They just accepted it as information. You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
Yeah.
But I was also using it to demonstrate to him, like, dude, Max is not even 5 years old. And he can tell you all that shit about the planets. When do you learn that stuff in school?
4th grade.
4th grade, right?
No, I actually don't. I never learned it. I never talked
Right?
about it.
Yeah.
Didn't get one planet talk.
Some of that stuff, like, you may not know, right? Whatever. But my point is
90% of it I did not know. 90%.
Well, yeah, but my point is, like, you know, so what will be the purpose of school? I'm like, the purpose of school should be you learn math, like logic, and then how to read. You don't learn any of that. And if you went to school to be a computer programmer and 4 years later you have a degree, 4 years after you started, the entire industry has fucking changed multiple times over. You don't know a fucking thing now.
Oh yeah.
Now you got to learn again. So if you went there for 4 years in order to learn something, what was the point? That's why they're getting into micro certification and all this kind of stuff, right? So, but my point in bringing it up was the point specifically about us showing Ali in real time, like our kids don't believe one way or the other. Believe meaning they don't accept it. This is the truth. This is the truth. It's just like, here's information. Okay, we understand this is basically a belief, or we don't really know for sure, and they can get more information and so forth, right? I'm not sure why I wanted to explain that to you guys, but
something about
well, the point is truth. As I'm trying to get at. It's like, you don't fucking know. So if you're spending all your time trying to uncover the truth, let's say you get to the end of that, you've uncovered the truth. What are you going to do with it? Because I'll tell you the truth right now. The truth is the world is fucked. The system that we have created as human beings over time is not best for everybody, and it's automated. And there's nothing you can do on an individual basis that will make a fucking difference if the system isn't changed. The system will always win because that's what the nature of a system is. It's designed that way. It's like going to the casino and being like, well, I can beat the house. You know, like those guys in the movie 21. I'm like, yeah, but then eventually they got kicked out and banned from the casinos and everything. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you maybe win a couple times, but eventually you lose.
Yeah. This is the part that I wanted to break down. This specifically of like, okay, what you're saying is essentially, yeah, maybe the Rothschilds did do this, or maybe, you know, I was just thinking, you know, Swedish people pronounce Rothschild completely different. But anyway.
How do they say it?
Like Rothschild, something like that, like Red Shield. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
But maybe...
For all of our Swedish fans, we just want to make sure we don't exclude you.
Swedish, Swiss.
Oh, Swiss? Oh, they said Swedish.
I did say Swedish. They're all the same thing to me. Anyway, sorry, Alan. But
back to Sweden, Alan.
Anyway, but like the point is like, okay, who cares if that's real or not? Because at the end of the day, how is that affecting us today? And then what are you going to do about it? Like,
also, wasn't Rothschild's starting point the same as everybody else's fucking starting point of their life? That's the problem.
That's
not the truth of what he did. He's like, he just had a higher vocabulary than you. You would have done the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
Because your starting point's the same.
And your principles are the same.
Exactly.
Well, essentially, like, you just want to survive. That's everybody's starting point is like survival, separation, and
he's just showing when you put the survival starting point into a certain vocabulary and environment set, like, what is it going to be the expression of that? So he's actually giving you a reflection of yourself. You should be grateful.
And that's what we're seeing, like, in this world, just in general. Like, this is the extent of the expression of survival. It leads here, which is, as everyone can see really clearly, it's crumbling. It's destruction. It's like, this is deteriorating. This is not life, right? And so what needs to change is really our starting points, everyone, and principles as well, of like, okay, that's not life. So the truth, quote unquote, of what this person did or didn't do, who cares? It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's what's the starting point, and then what are we going to do about it now, right? That's pretty much what.
Look at what's going on in Australia.
Oh yeah.
That's the end result of all of it. Well, survival of the system. It's the system that wants to survive. That's what we've accepted and allowed. It doesn't care about life. And everyone's complaining about it. Like, we live in 1984. I'm like, dude, we've been living in 1984. We've been living in 1983, and now it's 1984. I mean, what, you didn't think it was going to happen?
That's another interesting point. It's like, because I've noticed, like, if you read those books, like Animal Farm specifically, what we see is like, there's a cycle that takes place, right? And so, you know, you learn this truth or whatever, you learn this new information, and then the cycle just repeats, but with other people doing the same thing, right? And that's the same thing we're seeing with, like, specifically here in America, the racism points, where it's like, oh, now these people need to be put in power and we need to suppress those people over there. And then it just becomes this cycle where the exact same thing is taking place, but with different characters being the perpetrators and the victims, right? And the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because what I've noticed, when you actually change your starting point and then improve your vocabulary, which is what we're doing, which is what we're suggesting, meaning what you were saying before, you expand yourself so you can see more, and you let go of those points where you are, that would hold you back from being able to do more. Then when you get to these places where like ordinarily you would have done X, Y, Z, you find yourself doing A, B, C, and it's like,
no, like literally, because you'll get Technotutor and then you'll like start with ABC. She'll like literally be starting with that.
But like it's exactly what you always actually wanted. You have out of it the result that you wanted, the feeling that you wanted, the point that you were making when you first started lecturing us, which was just basically what we're doing is what everybody actually wants, right?
Well, it's the result is what everyone wants. Like what Asif was just describing before he left, which I don't, he likes to leave randomly, describing about, being able to call somebody like, hey, I'm in Toronto, you want to hang out? And then, hey, you want to come back to my place? Let's have a little party. And then suddenly 20 people show up out of them last minute. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're not compromising. And I'm sure he'll confirm this when he gets back, although I know no alcohol, no drugs. You know what I mean? Nothing, there's no reason to go to that party except I want to be around those people and discuss like stuff that matters. And they're not over there like going off about conspiracy theories and all that. They're like literally just talking about principles. Like, okay, so how did you, that point within your relationship where you guys were really fighting, like how did you resolve that? Like stuff that people actually want. That's why they go to therapists and marriage counselors. How many marriage counselors are there? Can somebody look it up, Owen? I can't hear me. Owen. How many marriage counselors are there in the US? I bet you there's like 1 million. I don't know. I mean, I'm just making that up. Probably not 1 million, but there's probably a lot, right? How many marriage counselors are there? How many health coaches? How many?
125,000.
125,000 marriage
currently employed in the United States.
You think about that, right? So people want, and then what about psychologists? How many psychologists are there? How many children's psychologists? How many? Do you know what I mean?
Not doing shit about changing the system.
Not
They're literally anything. Just perpetuating it.
But my point is people want help with that. They want support with that. And so if you don't have principles, the problem is you'll never solve the problem, because it's like if somebody came to me like, hey, can you give me advice about how to educate our kids, or how to, I'm fighting with my wife all the time. And then I'm like, well, okay, let's start. I'm not saying I would talk like this, but just as an example, like, let's start by looking at like, what's your purpose? And then selling them on the point of like the purpose of changing the system. And I imagine they're like, no, I'm not interested in that. No, I don't want that. I just want to make my relationship with my wife better. Okay, well, what is your common purpose? I don't want to talk about purpose. I want to talk about purpose. It's like, why are you guys together? We love each other. Come on, obviously. Let's go. Come on. Keep up. I'm like, you have no fucking purpose. Like my wife and I are not together because we love each other. We have a common purpose. Love is an action. We do things and we support each other in ways that it creates a loving environment that feeds back to us. You see what I'm saying? It's not I have a feeling for her and that's why I do what I do. We both have the same purpose, the same principles. That's why we do what we do. And the result of that is an environment where we feel love and appreciation and respect and enjoyment and so forth. Love is not what keeps us together. It's principle. It's our dedication within ourselves to our principles that allows us to work together. It's not even keeping us together. Keeping us would mean like I'm constantly trying to get out of it. Like there's no keeping. Do you see what I mean? I was thinking about this real quick. I want to bring this up because I made that joke about 1983, right? We're in 1984, guys, right? And if you don't like 1984,
Imagine
you're not going to like 1985.
Not bad, buddy.
Right? Because that's next year. And look what's going on. You can't even solve your problems within your relationships or with your kids or whatever. How the fuck are you going to, knowing the truth about anything, suddenly everything's going to change? The problem is not the truth. The problem is you can't even fucking be stable in your own life.
Yeah.
That's the problem. So therefore, a system was manifested by all of us collectively to just do it, to take care of all that stuff for us and not direct it. But then there's so many loopholes in there of everyone's little self-interest. Of course, the system doesn't work for that in a way that's best, because at every point in the system, there's a person there who's got the same starting point of like, what purpose? No, come on, purpose. It's just about me and my life and what I want. And they're using that point in the system to get that thing that they just want. Now, does that mean we shouldn't have the things we want? We should, but let's create systems that are best to do that.
You know what?
You see what I mean? Like, that's the obvious common sense.
What I thought was the saddest part of 1984 was those kids who basically, they grow up, they learn what to be a spy essentially, and then they spy against their own parents so that they will conform to the system. And it's like the specific characters in that book were just, the parents were doing everything to go along with the system. That's all they lived for. And still the kids were like basically turning them in,
right,
to be arrested.
Because they were just monsters. They were just programmed monsters.
Yeah.
Oh, I went to this rally yesterday at the Capitol. I'll go more into it in a moment. But they had these two little kids go up and speak that were like elementary school age kids. Wow. That were like freedom fighter kids. And this one girl explained how in the classroom, because she would never wear a mask and she would stand up and question authority. And so she's sharing about her journey. She's like a fourth grader. It was amazing. She's a really good speaker. Yeah. And she goes, when I got back into school, my teacher came in and said, class, I'm going to have you all do an assignment. I want you to take a piece of paper and write down the middle a line. And on the left-hand side, I want you to write 3 good kids. And on the right-hand side, I want you to write 3 bad kids.
Jesus.
Literally did that.
Fuck.
Yeah. And she's in front of, I don't know how, there was a lot of people there yesterday. It was amazing.
See, but now look, I mean, was there more to it?
Well, the more to it is, because I'll share a bit more about it in a moment. But the whole thing is, it's like, okay, now we're aware that is part of the truth. But now what do we do with that information?
Well, that's the point. It's like, why are parents putting their kids in school?
Exactly.
Now, you can say all day long, well, if they knew the truth, like this point, and it's like, well, no, because they don't have a solution to not have their kids in school. They're like, well, no one's going to educate my kids then.
That's why who's
going to teach them about the moon landing? Who's going to fucking teach them about viruses? So that way, when they grow up, they'll be afraid of COVID. Oops. It's like, guys, do you understand? The people who put the curriculums in the schools are the same people marketing you the fucking virus and all this shit. It's not the same people. In some cases, it might be because they sit on multiple boards, but it's the same principles. It's the same starting point. It's the same people. They all know each other. They all work together. They decide what goes in the curriculum. Hey, Milat.
Hey.
Oh, self-perfected mug. Nice.
Yes.
Hi,
You see what I mean, though? It's the same start. So it's like, I don't understand. Like, people should be free to do what they want, and they should be, but I'm going to put my kid in school. And like Sandra made a video on her channel. She said, like, you want to be an entrepreneur, but you put your kids in prison all day. Like, yeah, no shit. That's what it is. Like, we all went to school. We knew. I was like, fuck, I hate school.
Yeah.
Does that mean you should just let kids on the street? And like, I mean, there's so much context there. See, that's a problem. You have to have a solution. But the parents can't take the time to direct the child. Because why? They have to go to work. Because they got their own fucking prison they need to go to every day. Which the same people running your company, most likely, the same mindset, is the same people who run the schools, is the same people who run the drug companies. It's all the same fucking thing. They don't care about you. You've become a slave to it. That's what I mean by the system. You don't have a system. Oh, by the way, There was actually a book written called 1985.
Oh shit, buddy.
Yeah. And have you guys ever heard of Clockwork Orange? A Clockwork Orange?
Yeah.
It's a really cool movie. I saw the movie when I was a kid, basically. Not really a kid's movie. So don't take your kids to that one. But I mean, if you're going to show them that versus Disney, just show them Clockwork Orange. But I really was obsessed with the movie because it's a Stanley Kubrick movie. But then I read the book and I really liked the book. I mean, I probably was like in middle school, almost high school or something, right? And I read that book probably as many times as I read 1984. And then later, when I was in university, I found that the guy who wrote Clockwork Orange wrote a book called 1985. And damn. I think his starting point was basically like 1984 was cool. But the thing, okay, think about this. Why do a lot of kids read 1984 in school? If it's exposing everything, if it's telling the truth about everything, why do they even let you read it in school? Shouldn't it be banned?
Yeah.
Probably to plant the seed. It's like predictive programming in Hollywood. People are too dumb to realize.
But it's also like, yes, but it's also like, this is how I see it. Like, why did we constantly hear for 4 years that Trump was a fascist and a dictator? And when he clearly wasn't.
So that when the fascists and dictators got in, you'd be like, oh, no, this is the opposite of.
You'd be like, guys, we already did that. Like, give me a break. Like you said, that was nonsense for 4 years. And now you're acting like, oh, Biden. Like literally you see people on the right going, Biden is a dictator. He's a fascist, all this stuff. I'm like, I mean, you made fun of the other side for saying that for 4 years.
Right.
You said they were ridiculous. What do you think they're going to say? It's not going to work, is it? Good job. See? So my point is like, there's an element where it's like, well, I've already been exposed to it. Yeah, 1984. I know that was that stupid book we had to read, and it was like all weird and stuff. Like, come on, you're saying now it's 1984. I mean, because you didn't even process it anyways. But it was kind of like planting the seeds so that you wouldn't. It's almost like guys, we're like literally living in V for Vendetta, and you're like, yeah, we're living in a movie. Okay, like The Matrix. Like we're living in a movie, right? Okay, but because it was a movie. It's interesting. It does two things. One, it was a movie, so therefore clearly that's not occurring now because it just happened to be a movie and it came true. But also it subconsciously programs everybody to accept the imagery of that thing. It's like the thing with the ships, you know, when they say like the natives couldn't really understand and process what these ships were coming towards them when Columbus came, right? It's not that they couldn't see something, is they couldn't process what it was in order to be like, we need to fuck. Because like I said before, if he was going towards an Italian colony, they'd be like, get the cannons ready.
Yeah.
They would know what that means.
Yeah.
So if you want to prepare people for a certain thing, you can use movies to get their mind ready to accept it. You see what I mean? Like Minority Report. Like it's like getting the mind ready to accept that they're just going to prevent you from doing crimes in the future because you fit a certain profile, for example, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So V for Vendetta, it like prepared everybody. It was a very popular movie. It prepared everybody that this to accept it when it comes, even though it's almost like I want to fight it, but you know, the fighting doesn't change anything.
It's kind of like, oh my God. Like, let's say it starts happening and you're like, oh my God, this is just like V for Vendetta. And what did they do in V for Vendetta to change it again? Oh yeah. Revolts,
right?
Destroy buildings. That's perfect. It's so perfect.
It doesn't actually explain to you the real solution. It's just
like
images.
It's like it says. It's like the movie's programming you for when these conditions come about. This is how you.
Here's respond. The correct response. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
So check out that 1985 book because in there, basically, the guy who wrote it was kind of like, yeah, 1984 was cool, but it was a little bit too much. Just the guy reacting to English socialism. And so he kind of goes into a more realistic version of what a dystopia would be like, rather than it being like this kind of like super weird, like thing you can't relate to in a way, you know what I mean? But at the same time, people in Australia can probably relate to what's going on in 1984 right now. And I mean, if you put all the pieces together, like the guy's job in 1984 was to literally go into the newspapers and create a new one to change information because it no longer agreed with what the party was saying. And that's literally what fact checkers do. All these, you know, like they do stealth editing, things like that, right? So we're already seeing all of that. There's literally fact checkers. How is that not the Ministry of Truth?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But it's like some people see it. But what do they do about it? And there's half the people can see it, half the people can't see it.
Yeah.
So what are you supposed to do? The problem is the people who can see it, it's easy for the people who can't see it to be like, you're just hallucinating. You see what I mean? You're seeing something that's not there versus the people who can't see it. And then the people who can see it think that the people are just stupid.
Okay.
But how do you actually support? Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this is so timely now. So this weekend, I went to this. So last weekend, right? I said it on the last podcast. I went to one rally and then I met another group of people. And that group of people, it's awesome. They're a bit more like spiritual than like, but they're questioning the system is the point. And they're like, I need something to do. I'm like, oh, cool. Let's meet. So I met with some of them this week. Oh, it was great. Really great. Like found one guy in particular, really cool. I'll share more about him over time. But high probability that he's down for the cause. He's already like very successful, like real estate guy, property manager, stuff like that. And so then I heard about this. It's called the Global Health Freedom Summit. It's those words in some order, some summit with global health and freedom, all the buzzwords, right? Freedom. And it was like 2 hours up north, and there's like, yeah, it's this event. And I didn't know they'd already done it 3 years in a row. They're planning on the next one next year already.
I've heard that name before, by the way, like for sure. I've heard the name of that summit before.
Oh,
like for sure. Because when you mentioned Del Bigtree, which I know you'll get into all that, like I was like, oh yeah, I've heard of this, right? So it's definitely a thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was amazing. There was like, I don't know how, there's well over 1,000 people. It was all in this room. It was at some church Christian center thing, but they had the thing packed out like upper level too. And
real quick, before you go into all that, just think about this, guys. Why is it the Christians are like against all of it?
Yeah.
Why?
I think a few reasons. Well, they see,
even though they put all their kids in school, they do all the same shit. They all have jobs. They're participating in the system just like everyone else. But why are they specifically like really against it?
Because God replaces the state, or state.
In the fucking Bible, it talks about getting the mark of the beast.
Yeah.
It's just they've been predictively programmed to be the resistance to it. Because when you actually talk about their principles, it's not about changing the system. It's about fighting the system. They're like, they feel like, oh, it's like they're getting off on being canceled. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we're the ones that are being suppressed. And we want to, it's like they want to be the oppressed class that has to struggle and fight. Because they've been programmed through the fucking
cross on your
Moses and the Jews in the desert and Jesus and all this stuff. You see what I mean?
It's that same pattern.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's fascinating because that was my one qualm about the thing was.
But you know what I mean? That's my point, though. Is like you're not going to find the people who really get it because they're just actually acting out a program. They're saying we don't want the chip, but it's like, well, look at your credit cards, look at your debit cards.
Right.
You literally have a microchip on it, and you don't have a problem plugging it in at Walmart.
Exactly. Or Whole Foods.
You guys had the chip before us, by the way, in Canada.
Yep.
I remember I had a chip and we never used it. And I went to Canada. They were like, put it in. And I was like, why? What is this? I didn't even know what it was until I went to Canada. And then suddenly, like a few months later, it was like everywhere in the US.
So the event, like I went with the intention of I'm going to meet like-minded people that are looking for solutions and it's going to be great. And I definitely met some of those people. And I also realized that within myself, I had never done I had done some like surface level dives into like really understanding what is a virus, why we literally have nothing to be afraid of. Like I knew it, but it was information to me. I didn't fully like sit there, look within my principles and like know it 100%. And one of the doctors on stage, he talked about how he'd been seeing like kids and families for the past, 40 years or something. And he's like, just all the same stuff Thomas Cohen is saying, the same stuff you and Katie have been saying to me of like, when you have sickness in your body, it's your body just processing impurities. Like let the body run its course. Don't give them the fever medication. It's like the body's so intelligent. Like don't fuck with it. And so that was cool to hear. And then
with the fever stuff, it's like it gets to a certain point where you might have to potentially, but the point is, generally speaking, people intervene way too quickly because they're afraid of it rather than realizing there's a point to it in many cases.
Yes, exactly. And then he explained that with the virus too. And he's like, there's going to be coronaviruses. There's all this stuff.
Well, there's already been like what, 19 of them?
And he's just explaining like, it just support your body. He gave a really cool line. He said, expect exposure. It's a great starting point within looking at health. Expect exposure. You're not going to stop it. You're not going to stop it.
That's why we're doing this podcast, by the way, guys, for the exposure.
So that was cool. But then this other dude came. Well, another guy's running for governor. We met him at the fair the other week, and he's like, he's cool. I'm very much enjoying hearing how people like command the room and engage with the crowd. And he had some points that like really hit home, and other points that I was like, I could have done a little better. But you know, it was cool to see though, because he's openly saying he's like exposing big pharma, big tech, all this stuff. But again, just information, the truth. Where's the real principles? He had some interesting principles, and I'm looking forward to connecting with people that are going to his types of rallies, because they're going to be looking for the self-perfected message.
How many people do you guys think, would you just off the top of your head, just random guessing? No, we don't know. People know that big pharma, big tech is all fucked.
Oh, I would say
over half people.
Yeah, 60 to 70% of people know.
You would think, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
what's happening?
Yeah,
is what you're
what's
saying.
being done. We're all
like everyone knows. And even the people, guys, even the people who don't know, most of them know.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care because it's benefiting them in some way. They don't care. Like,
Dude,
like they know, but it's like the people in 1984. Like, yeah, we know the government is surveilling us because people are thinking bad thoughts. Like, you can't think bad thoughts. They're like, but dude, that's like literally like a dictator. Like, well, yeah, but somebody has to do it because otherwise people will just think these bad thoughts. And you're like, okay, fuck, that person's already aware of the truth. Mm-hmm. And everyone's aware of the truth. So what the fuck now? Like, how is the truth going to set us free?
Right.
There's no setting you free. Like, think about it. You're already free.
Okay, this is going to need a breakdown.
Well, but like, think about it. You learn the truth. How is it suddenly setting you free to do what?
To then,
for example,
outside
I go to the slaves on the plantation, right? I'm like, guys, there's like what 50 fucking really strong dudes working this field, right? Drake, you thought I was gonna say black dudes, didn't you?
Hey, I just want to say,
smirk. I saw you smirking.
I just want to say, because when you brought up slaves, it just
I didn't say what era. I didn't say what country. These could have been fucking Greek.
This could be today. This could be today, and they could
Arabs
be picking cotton
with white slaves.
I'm just saying, it could be today. They could be picking cotton.
It could be Amazon workers in a warehouse. Yeah,
but there are slaves picking cotton today in China right now.
What if it came out that like the Chinese? Well, I don't want to say too much. All right. Yeah. But my point was, you go to the slaves, like these 50 guys. You're like, guys, you guys are like fucking strong as shit. Like, you should literally just like go take over this farm or whatever. Like, you're not going to do anything. Right. And they're like, oh, we're free now. And I'm like, you're free the whole time. Would they do it?
No.
Why not?
Fear of getting killed.
But isn't it that like immediately like the military would come?
That what?
Like if they literally did that, wouldn't like the military be there like tomorrow? Like in that day and age, or like the police or whoever? Yeah. They'd be like, you are property. Like you can't do that. Like,
so then were they free?
But I'm saying like you're either in the context of they could just do it. They're already free. They're not going to do it because the system is not going to allow them to do it. But when I say you're free already, it's like, why are you enslaved? If the truth can set you free, then how are you not free right now? If it's just a matter of truth, what is it that you can't do because you don't know something? that if you knew it, suddenly you can do something else? What is it? Like the person who has 2 different jobs, working the double shift at Walmart and Walgreens or whatever, the CVS or whatever, and they have 3 kids at home and their husband is like a day laborer, like they're going to learn all the truth about all this stuff. And then what are they going to do?
Nothing.
How are they going to do anything? How did that set them free?
Yeah.
If anything, they become more paranoid. They become detached from their reality. And then they're just trying to like go to rallies all day and now they can't feed their kids. I'm not saying they should stay doing those jobs and stuff, but what I'm saying is that's not a solution. The truth cannot set you free. Truth is just information. If truth can set you free, you're already free. Because it's just information.
It's just you.
It's not physically changing anything. It's like if you had a chain that was locked to a fucking post and you can't, and I go unlock it, now you're free from that post. But if I'm like, hey, you could just walk away. You're not changing anything. I'm like, oh, okay. But would the slave walk off the plantation?
No.
Why not? Because they know the moment they walk off that fucking plantation, the police and dogs and people on horseback whipping them, just like it happened at the border, apparently, which apparently didn't happen. And now they're using it to rile everybody up about like, oh, we got to let all the immigrants in across the border because somebody was getting whipped on a horse. Like, and they're like, do you hear this thing with like, they're like, well, they're not actually checking their COVID, blah, 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 and getting the vaccine because they're not going to stay here very long. They're just coming across the border for a short period of time. Or some shit. Like, they try to like spin it somehow. It's like, what? Like literally you can't get on a plane or anything else, like, but these people can just come across the border. It's just insanity, right? But my point is, what is the actual truth going to do for you? Does it mean we shouldn't talk about it and support people? Truth and it's not even about truth. It's about clarity. It's about understanding. When you're clear, you don't have any fear anymore. And when you don't have any fear anymore, you'll stand up. But if you stand up just to go to another rally, which the rallies are cool because you meet people, you connect. But it's like, if you weren't at that rally, would anybody else there have met anybody with any real solution?
No.
What would they do? They're like, can you believe what's going on in these schools, in these classrooms? We need to demand that the school boards do not put masks on our kids. And then we also need to demand that they stop teaching them critical race theory. We need to demand that they just keep teaching them science that got outdated in the 1920s. We need to demand that they just keep teaching them math, that by the time they get through 12 years of learning all this math, they don't know anything about math. Like, what exactly are parents fighting for in the schools? Like, they're just really pissed off because they're playing the wrong music at the daycare. That's really all it is. I don't want to play rap music. I'll play country music at the daycare. Come on. Like, that's all it is. It's not fucking real. It's not real. You see what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is really fascinating because I saw this firsthand, and it's like we're now putting words to everything that I saw.
Did they say that kid is still in school? That one that was speaking?
No, she's homeschooled.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, gotta chat with her family.
Maybe that was the straw that but then look at that, right? So now that child's at home, right? Mm-hmm. Are they going to suddenly become educated because of that?
No, that's the thing.
Because you still have to have a system to do that.
Yes, exactly. That's what TechnoTutor is for anyone who it's not obvious for. So at this health summit thing, right? So then after lunch, they had this one guy and he came out and he shared, 20 different articles, the mainstream peer-reviewed scientific journal, whole thing, all exposing how the mask doesn't do shit, the vaccine doesn't do shit, what the virus really is, the actual death rates are nothing. Like he laid it all out so plain, all the links, everything. I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe in a conversation this might come in handy, but it was just like blatant. And then Sherry Tenpenny comes out. And then she's like, I don't know if she's in that Plandemic movie, but she's like a pretty outspoken, like non-vax person, like hardcore researcher. Like she literally did 2,000 hours of research and has an entire thing about, so she explained that. Okay, so this is what's fascinating, right? again, we're going to look at what we can do with this information. But in terms of being aware of some information, she explained there are 40 different, she calls them MOIs, or mechanisms of injury, that have been proven from the COVID jab. Proven. She gives all the articles. They were explaining the amount of kids 0 to 14 or whatever that have died that also tested positive for this apparent COVID thing, which again, the PCR tests aren't even showing you COVID. But there's like, I don't know, 360 some kids that have had that experience, where they died and then also tested positive. There's already on record like over 700 0 to 18-year-olds that have died from within a couple days, within like 4 days of getting the jab, from all of these different things. And so I'm just seeing this firsthand, like, holy shit, like this is insane. And now they're trying to do the jab with babies and stuff. And there's
imagine someone being like, that's not that many though, out of the total people who've gotten the vaccine. I'm like, how many people do you think have actually died of COVID?
Exactly.
Like, that's what people have been saying the whole time. Like, it's not that many people.
Yeah. And so that got really eye-opening. Of her just explaining all these, like the antibody dependent enhancement, and how she broke down the 3 main vaccines and how they each alter your mRNA and then your DNA. And I was just like, it's like this irreversible thing. But
so KT was right. You can change your DNA.
Sponsored by Johnson & Johnson.
He just never knew it would be literally the pharmaceutical companies that would be the ones to do it. It's like, hey, I tried to tell you guys, you should do it yourself, or these people are going to do it for you.
The elite.
Yeah.
The elite know that it's all genetics.
It's all genetics. Like success and failure is all genetic.
Yeah. And she got a little religious at the end for me, but what
do you mean religious? Like what?
She's like, drink the blood of Christ.
Expand on that. What do you mean?
She goes, so God has this pure connection to humans through our pure, unadulterated DNA.
Oh, sick.
And when you take the jab, you have thus altered your DNA. And she, proved it. I mean, I'm not in the fucking lab with the microscope looking at the thing alter the DNA, but
well, that part makes sense. The other part, is the belief part.
And then she goes, so you basically, like, anyone who's got the jab has then lost that ability to connect with God, and it's the mark of the beast.
Dude, it's weird, like how limited God is by the systems he creates. That is really fascinating. Like literally, he's like, I can't communicate with you if you don't have the right DNA. Like
you have to be a king or queen.
It's like, guy, you're on the wrong cell network. I can't. I'm trying to text you, but you're not responding. I got to upgrade. You got to change your phone, man. You got the wrong phone. You got the wrong service. Yeah. You're not on my friends and families plan.
So funny.
For those where you had to have a plan. Like, is that even a thing anymore?
I'll just relay the message to kings and queens. They'll enforce everything.
Like, but think about the logic of that part where they can't even see through that. It's like, it just helps them reinforce probably within them that they're on the right side, and also allows them to maintain hope, because with that story, there has to be a God involved, and therefore he's all powerful, but he's not all powerful because he's not preventing all this stuff from happening. So it's like, well, then what is the point of your faith?
It's like we talked about before with people think that just because something is natural, that it's good,
Right.
And
this is the thing though. It's like, let's just take it back. For all those who agree with this person, God communicates to humans through this pure, unadulterated DNA, right? Who created the universe in the very beginning?
God.
Okay.
Apparently God.
And then, God. Okay. So, and then who created humans?
God.
Apparently God.
Okay. And he was able to communicate to them perfectly, right?
Yeah.
And then at what point did their DNA become adulterated that lost that connection?
According to this,
it was the Rothschilds. It's like, who created them?
God.
Yeah.
What were you going to say? Were you going to make a joke or serious?
She was saying something about like the story of Noah, how apparently God is like pissed and then wiped out everyone except Noah, and then
Noah was the fucker.
Sons got cursed.
Got cursed by who?
God.
By Noah.
What? Why would Noah do that?
So does anyone know the story? It's like
No, tell me the story. It's like actually fascinating. Yeah.
No,
story time.
yeah.
Okay.
Can you turn up your mic a little bit? I think it's a little bit.
Oh boy.
Okay, but don't get too hot.
Don't get too crazy with that.
Don't talk closer. Pick one.
Okay, how's that?
Turn it up and get closer.
Yeah,
Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, so gather around, everybody. Story time. So Noah had 3 sons, and this is after the flood, I believe. And Noah's like in his tent, and he was drunk or something, and he was naked. And
First mistake, second mistake.
yeah. And then he had 3 sons, Ham, Sham, and some other longer one. We should bring that name back. Ham and Sham. I'm just kidding.
I think those are like pronouns now. Those are going to be my pronouns. What are your pronouns? Him and Sham. Him, Sham.
Ham, Sham. And so then Ham apparently looked into Noah's tent and then went to and saw that he was naked. Probably means something in the original language. And he went to his brothers. He's like, hey, look at Noah. He's naked. And then the 2 brothers were like, what the fuck? Like, why are you looking at dad like that? And then they came over and they were like walking backwards. So they didn't see their dad naked and gave him like a robe. And then Noah came out. And then after he sobered up, he goes, hey, Ham, I'm going to put a curse on you forever. And then Ham then had the curse put on him forever. And then I think Ham's kids then became, it was something about the 4th generation would be cursed forever. And then
this
Ham
is why Jews don't eat pork.
Genius. And then Ham had a son, Cush, and then Cush had a son, Nimrod. And Nimrod was apparently
tell me more
this
about
king.
Cush. I'm thinking.
This was it. This is it. It's all coming back to me.
Dank Kush.
OG
what kind of Kush we tell? It was an OG Kush. He's the OG Kush, literally.
The OG Kush, yeah. And then so Nimrod then was apparently involved with Babylon, and they were all
Nimrod?
like having sex with the gods, creating the Nephilim, which we all know all about that. And so like you got the creator gods, and then they're like, having sex with the humans, and so that was then the adulterated DNA.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And then her perspective is those people, the lines of them then
when did God create the Nephilim?
When did God? They were fallen angels, Cameron. It was not God.
So how did they fall? Where did their DNA get messed up for them to fall and lose that pure connection to God? Well, no, they made a choice. And it's like, well, so is it about choice or is it about you got the fucking jab?
Yeah, I don't know. But
that was the all story. Back then, they all had choices. They could choose to worship God and be connected to him or not. Now you don't have a choice, just whether you have the right DNA. It's out of my hands.
Yeah, I don't know. But it was fascinating. At the end, she goes, and for all you who got the jab, I was like, is she gonna have any like compassion or not? She's like, you had the chance to research. Like, you made that decision. Like, you were willfully ignorant. And what else?
Damn. She's saying,
it was pretty hardcore.
Like they're done. Like that's it.
Well, she's like, you can communicate to God, and he can set it right with you or something.
So they still
I don't know.
So she's God.
For all the scientific research she did, I was a little bit baffled about that part. But anyway,
see, but that's the problem. Mm-hmm. She's got the truth, but then you got all that stuff. Was that stuff true? Also, you got to take both. And like, so is just a way for Christians to be like, we're special. And like, Muslims can never be a part of this because they don't accept Jesus, because you got to do all that too. Like, because it's about blood, isn't it? Isn't that DNA or some shit? Like, think about it. It's like, it's fuck. I'm glad you brought this up, because these summits, it's all about health, freedom, and all this stuff. Is anyone who's not religious ever going to take that person seriously when he starts talking about the Nephilim?
Exactly. That's what I was.
I'm not saying not to talk about it, but I don't have a problem with the Nephilim. I have the problem with the logic of this dude cursed his son because he saw him naked, and that created all this. Like, you don't have. It doesn't seem unreasonable to you.
It was in the Bible, though, Cameron. It was in the Bible.
But you know what I mean? Like,
that point too. Oh man, this is fascinating. Like, some more Christian people are now coming into my life now, and it's just I'm like chatting with them because there's this pattern I'm seeing of these like Christian people that are like anti-system. So I'm like, okay, cool. Do you want to actually understand the Bible? Because we can chat about how you can do that. And there's this one what I've kind of distilled it down to is this one point where does anyone know what the Council of Trent is?
Council of
One meeting.
I don't remember what it specifically represents, but I know I learned about it.
Yeah, so it was this one meeting where I believe it was in Rome, and but it was like the meeting where they decided what books make it into the Bible and what.
Oh, right, okay, yeah,
that right there. So for anyone who's told me the Bible has got all the answers, and then they go, oh,
literally an authority, the same authority who today would be the ones deciding what's true and not true on Facebook.
Exactly, with all the fact
same fucking thing back then. They just had to control one book.
Right. And so the fallacy of the Christian logic goes, well, God had his hand in that room and he made sure the right books got in the Bible. It's like,
yeah, well,
so was he also in the room with those Catholic priests who were raping those kids?
Well, no, don't even go there. Was he in the hand at the Pfizer and the Moderna safety meetings where he's like, no, we'll make sure the right vaccines go in there.
Exactly. It's
like, he couldn't do it in that case. Sorry,
like
guys.
I
can't do that one.
It's like
I got too much things to do.
That Americans love, that's like Trump signing some executive order and it's Jesus behind him, like, yes, like guiding his hand or whatever. It's like the same image.
Like
take that.
He's
but it's like
whispering like dot the I and cross the T.
It's like it's like you know when Obama and Biden and all of them, they got the vaccine, right?
Yeah.
It's like the nurse going to pick up the real vaccine versus like a fake vaccine, and Jesus guides their hand to like a fake vaccine. Like, yeah, so that's the picture.
Yeah. So anyway, that was
check this out real quick. You're gonna love this. Okay. There's all this debate. They said they've debated for 2,000 years what it means that he saw his father's nakedness. Some of them say that wasn't a sufficient enough crime, and it was really because he was gossiping about how his dad was always drunk. Right? It says he's gossiping about his father's drunken disgrace in the street. Well, what I don't understand is, okay, Noah, like all these people died, right? So it's just him, his sons, and his wife and their wives, right? So who was he gossiping to?
Yeah.
Like just his brothers?
Wait.
Another one is that he either castrated or sodomized his father. And in that case, guys, I can understand the curse. I mean, okay. But here's another one. It says in Leviticus, where'd it go? In Leviticus 20:11, it says, and the man that lieth with his father's wife hath uncovered his father's nakedness. And the word uncovered his father's nakedness was what was used in Noah, or in that story, right?
Oh,
so
he fucked his mom?
Maybe it wasn't his mom. Maybe it was like one of his other wives. Like, does he have multiple wives? I don't know.
Oh, shit.
But, I mean, like, okay, clearly the pure connection to God was already broken way before that point. Okay. Like,
Noah's getting wasted and shit. And like, he's like,
none of that
people
seems,
I get wasted. Fuck you.
None of that
son.
seems unreasonable. And it just goes to show that doesn't invalidate the research that this person has done on all the medical stuff.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because they just have different vocabulary sets and they can't see the obvious common sense bullshit of this versus this. They can look at this and they can see all the data points and how it connects. But then here, they're just not willing to question that one point.
Yeah.
There's no God. Uh-oh. Now everything makes more sense.
Yeah.
Hey.
But the problem is you're not protected by the blood of God or Lamb or Jesus or whoever. It's like, well, clearly you're not anyways.
Hey.
Clearly you're not anyways. Like, oh, if I just knew about the relationship with Jesus, then there wouldn't be COVID. It's like, I saw this woman, this video. I don't know how I started following her on YouTube. I'm not subscribed to her. And you know, those stories they do on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And it says they're coming for us, or they're down the street coming for us or something like that. And it's this woman, and her name is called Sister in Christ. And she's like driving in her car and it's some real shitty neighborhood. And there's like it looks like a police officer going to a door, like just walking up to a door. And she's like, I got to get down the house and warn my mother. They're coming for us. Right. And it's funny because she's like panning back and forth on the thing. And she's like, I am washed in the blood of Christ. I have no fear. I am saved by the Lamb of God. And as she's like panning their camera, you can see like she has like a mask hanging from her. People put them on their mirror or whatever. I'm like either she's wearing it because she's afraid, or she wears it because she has to go in places. But clearly she's not protected by the blood of God. She's not gonna wear a mask. But she's all paranoid about, she saw a police officer walking to a house and she's like, they're coming. They're right down the street from us. I got to go warn my mom. I'm like, what's going on with this? So it's like, really, it's just paranoid people, because you have to be paranoid to believe in God.
Whoa.
Okay. So a couple of things. One. I'm
so excited for your stupid little face in Minnesota.
His face?
Yeah, just Cameron. You just make sure these little faces.
Nice.
Yeah, see? You know that, right?
No. Okay, so there was a guy who, like, you know how in certain counties will have a board meeting, or I don't know what they're called, but like basically the mayor and whoever else sits on the board of the county will have people come in, the public come in, and then like voice like their opinions or what they want changed, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
So there's a guy who did that here in Orange County. And it was interesting. He brought up some things about how the virus uses a certain mechanism in order to cleave to, I guess, certain sites in your body. And he used this word. I forgot exactly what the word is, but it was like called fear in something. And I just found it super interesting because he was like, he was basically saying it's this mechanism is how the virus then attaches to sites in your body and then causes.
Was it the luciferin?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
It was fear was the beginning of it. Fear in, it just reminded me of like listening on Equaf. Like, oh, the virus uses fear. Like it's seeking fear as the signature, right? And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because then his next argument was what increases this fear and whatever within your body is when you deprive yourself of oxygen, like by wearing a mask. And so if you're fearful, that's something that you would do, and then that would create that whatever
the conditions to do it, because it's the actions you're taking based on the fear.
Yeah.
Nick, I got another spell for you guys.
Oh boy,
that was a spell right there, Drake.
Here's the spell.
Yeah,
guys.
that was another spell. Wow.
That was a spell.
Triple spell. Let's hear it.
Spellbreaker. Going in for the spellbreaker combo.
Ding ding ding.
This podcast is fucking lit. Wait, hold up. Like, subscribe, comment,
share it with everybody. Yeah. Every person on your friends.
We're trying to get that VPN money, guys.
Woo. Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Okay, I'm ready. Hit me.
Everything is God.
Oh, fuck, dude.
Even the jab.
Even COVID. Even the
think about this. Think about this. Is the virus a part of our reality?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love these easy ones, man.
Is God separate from the physical universe?
No, he's everything.
Our Father in heaven, bro.
Is God an entity in himself separate from the physical universe?
No.
God.
If you were, wouldn't that be a limit on God?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It can't be. So all of physical reality, which is all the multi-dimensions, that sum total is God. Okay. That's who we are.
Mm-hmm.
We've separated ourselves from it, but that's still who we are. So we are already that, but we're not acting as that.
Wow. It's like we're the fallen angels. We separated ourselves.
Now, as a human being in this physical form, I can't just take all of reality and make it do what I want because I'm in this physical form. So I'm not, the question is, am I acting as that in this
form?
You see, so it's still a limited form. So you can't be like, well, if I was God, I'd be able to float around and fly. This is not my form. Am I acting as God would in this form? If all were in each of their forms were acting as God would, this reality would be heaven on earth.
It's like if I was president, I would run things right, but you're not running things right in your own house.
So it's like you as a person in your house is not going to be able to run the country. You have to be president to do that. You have to be in that particular situation in that form.
But the way you get there is by acting as that director in your household. Make that great.
Well,
make
not even
household
necessarily. Not everyone can be president.
Right.
If you acted in your household the way you would act as if you were president, and everyone in their household acted that way in the context of being in the house, everything would work. You see what I mean? You only need one president.
Yeah.
So if every human being acted as if they were God as a human being.
True.
If God were a human being, how would he act? He wouldn't control the universe because that would control everybody else. You would just be in control of yourself as a human being. So the virus and all viruses are just other forms that are also here, but they're highly intelligent, more intelligent than a human being.
Oh, sure, buddy.
Whoa.
Well, obviously,
What do you mean by intelligent?
Well, what does intelligence mean?
Fuck, dude.
This is how I divert all questions.
The ability to effectively get a result in an environment.
Okay, look it up. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong about it. That's a good definition, but there's more. There's a bunch of context. So when you look at the word, you'll be like, oh yeah, that virus is intelligent.
Define intelligent or intelligence?
intelligent,
Yeah, let's do intelligent.
having the capacity
Marked by
for thought
intelligence.
and reason, especially to a high
told you.
degree.
What'd you say? What'd you say, Drake?
Having the capacity for thought and reason, especially to a high degree.
Okay.
Possessing sound knowledge, exercising or showing good judgment, endowed with the capacity to reason. That's intelligent.
Okay. What is intelligence? Because intelligent is it's a biased definition of the word intelligent.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
you can have intelligent, you can be like, that bacteria is highly intelligent, but they're not saying it can think.
Intelligence. One, the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. Or two, the collection of information of military or political value.
Yeah, the first
Okay.
one, the word knowledge is like your ability to
Acquire and apply knowledge and skills.
Yeah. So let's think of intelligent as the ability to affect reality, like Mitch said, based on information and so forth, right? So what is it that is currently preventing the system from changing?
Humans,
intelligence.
But specifically, what is it about humans that's preventing them?
ego, the mind, like
Yeah.
starting point of
Accepting
separation
limitation.
and
Right?
Separation.
All of that stuff.
Right.
Anger, blame, jealousy, spitefulness, fear, all of those
Doubt.
points, fear of survival, doubt, all of these
Lack of
points
education.
is why we believe in God and therefore accept a system to take care of us. Because if we are focused on God will sort everything out, we're not going to sort everything out. So someone is going to have to sort everything out for us, which is what the system does. Because your faith in God ain't going to grow crops. You don't put a system in place, you ain't getting crops. You can say, well, it's my faith in God that allows me to plant the crops and know that a seed will appear. Well, there's people who don't believe in God and they can still get the same yield you can.
Oh,
True.
It's about understanding the physical point and the consequences and so forth, right? So, okay, so the point, my point here is, if you think of the virus as an entity, now the difference between human beings and a virus isn't, each virus is like a different person. It's like, it's a collective entity. Do you see what I'm saying?
So is the Delta variant the same entity as the original COVID-19?
Hold on, that's not what's important at the moment. Okay. What I'm saying is think of it as an entity, right?
Mhm.
Because I mean, think about that too. Like, is your DNA different than Asif's?
like the point that you're making was not each individual particle of virus is not individual from the
Yeah.
virus.
Is your guys' DNA different?
No.
Technically, no.
No, it is different. You don't look the same. There is a difference.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's the same substance, but it's different.
But I'm saying you have different, it's a different code,
combination.
right? It's a different program. There's similarities, but it's technically different.
questions got hard again. Damn it.
Yeah.
So if you had two different
Calm it
viral
down.
DNAs, if you had with slight differences, would they say they're the same virus?
Yes, same. Well, I
They
don't
had
actually.
different DNA codes. They would say they're different viruses. That's where you
Yeah.
get the different strains and so forth, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so COVID-19 Delta variant is kind of like your child, right? It's like you, but it's a variant of your
I was just
DNA.
making the point that 99.9% of us is genetically the same, but yeah.
It's true, but my point was you're
No
different
variants, yeah. The
individuals,
tiny
right?
variance is what you're defining as another person.
So think of all the DNA that's exactly the same, which we would call COVID-19 as one entity,
Okay.
right? Just like all robins, all birds that are rabbits are the same entity.
Yeah.
Okay. They all act the same, right? They don't have individual freedom per se, right? Except within a very limited range. So from that perspective, you could think of the virus itself. If you thought about it as it was doing something with intention, if it was like, I want to wreck human society. Think about that. You say, well, it's the response to the virus. Yeah. You don't think it knew that's how you were going to respond? Like when you're playing chess with somebody, are you like, oh, I had no idea what they were going to do next? I mean, if you're good, you're kind of like assuming I know the 5 different things they could do next and I've got it all covered. If you're really good, you know the 10 things and the 30 things and moves down the road and so forth. So if you're highly intelligent, you know what's going to happen 5 years from now based on the response. And who are the people that are running the show, so to speak, with the response? It's people who are what? Very afraid. Very afraid of what?
The have-nots.
The have-nots. So everything is about controlling them, as you can see, because they know we have to control them because they're starting to realize because of the internet and the information of truth, you know, the age of truth and all this stuff, that they're realizing that there's the have-nots, there's the haves and have-nots. So what do the haves do? They just expose themselves even more to trying to control everybody. It's like the virus, it's like little puppets for the virus going, and I'll get you to expose yourself and I'll get you to expose yourself. And people will see you're afraid and people will see you're angry and you're this and you're that. And I'm just going to get you to do that. And you guys are going to fight each other. And it just is watching it all happen. But it's like, I'm doing this so you guys will fucking break the illusion that society was working in the first place. Because there was every year, millions of people dying as a result of the system when you could have helped them and you didn't care. So now I'm going to help you get it in your face. All of you in the first, and we've been saying this for years. You guys have known me for a long time. And I'm not saying I'm the only person, but we've been saying for a long time, like, guys, it's just a matter of time before all these things we keep talking about that you think are unimportant. That's just a part of the way things work before it comes to the first world.
Yeah.
I wasn't smart enough to know that it would be a virus that would do it. I just knew it was inevitable because of, it's like, I can see the end result based on the starting point. I can't see the details of what it looks like. I can just see the obvious inevitable conclusion. You see what I'm saying? Like, I know if you go into it with this starting point, the basic end result is going to be this, but I don't know the details of what's going to be, how it's going to happen. Right. And so my point though is, okay, this is the spell breaker for the Christians, because if they would realize the virus, the response, all of that is coming from God. They're trying to fight it. Like, if we can just fight it, it'll be okay. But what you don't realize is God is creating the virus. God is guiding the direction of the lockdowns and all this stuff. Because it's the physical universe. It's aspects of the physical universe standing up, saying, we're not going to accept this anymore. So what is the Christian solution? Can we just reset about 3 years and just go back to having our kids in school, having stable jobs and keeping the immigrants out and all that stuff? What was their solution like after 4 years of Trump and then another 4 years of Trump? What was our world going to be then? We're just not going to have critical race theory in the schools anymore. And, you know, there's going to be charter schools. And like, no one even gave a fuck about homeschooling their kids until this all happened.
Yeah.
You know, it went from 4 million people in the US to 8 million people in the US in 1 year, homeschooling. That's what we know of. And what will it be next year when there's even more hardcore and everything?
Wow. Shit, it grew that much? I thought it went from like 2.5 to 5.
Or maybe it's 2 to 5. It was a double. maybe I got the numbers wrong, but yeah. It was a doubling.
It's still a double. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Either way, it's still quite a bit.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a significant doubling. It's not like the double from 1 to 2. It went from 2 million to 4 million or whatever it is. Millions. Yeah. What will it be next year? Now, the problem is, what does everybody immediately say when they start to homeschool their kid? Well, what curriculum do I follow? So they start sharing curriculums. You're just doing the same shit you're doing in school. That led to this whole point in the first place. And how long are you going to be able to get your kids to do? It's like hard enough to get your kids to go to bed. How are you going to get them to follow some curriculum you don't even understand? Right. And what happens when you just plug and play the curriculum and suddenly it's all critical race theory? And you're like, I can't even buy a curriculum anymore. And I have to go underground. And it's like, you kids don't need a curriculum. You don't even understand what education is.
Yeah.
Because the starting point is still, well, they have to get a job, so they have to go to school. You see, I mean, my point? The Christians are not questioning really everything within themselves. They're using it as a way to project all their criticism outside of themselves, not realizing this whole time they've been thinking God will take care of them. God wasn't taking care of millions of people, billions of people, actually. Was he?
No.
When there are billions of people suffering on this planet and God wasn't taking care of, why would he take care of you? Like, give me a break. This guy is willing to allow the one dude he had to reset the entire earth to curse his son because he saw him naked after he got drunk and was laying in his tent. Why was he drunk? Like,
yeah.
And I mean, they flooded the entire world and they grew those fucking grapes pretty fast.
What does that mean?
You see what I'm saying? Like, the Christians don't have a solution. And am I saying there's no God? No, I'm not saying there's no God. I'm just saying it's not here to save you. Christians want to enslave God to be their savior so that they don't have to fucking change.
Oh.
Just like the people who want you to take the vaccine want to enslave you because they want Johnson & Johnson to save them. It's the same fucking mentality.
Mm-hmm.
You just it's like, you know what when I learned from mathematics, I took a really cool class called abstract algebra. It was fucking cool, man. Anybody should study it. Just look up group theory. It's really interesting. And really all you need to know is addition and subtraction and multiplication and division. You don't need to know much else. And basic algebra, like real basic shit. And you'll understand why is 9 plus 1 10?
Because we have a base 10 system.
Right? But why is it that if you just take only whole numbers, okay, if you take only whole numbers and you add and subtract, will you get only whole numbers?
Yeah.
Whole numbers meaning also positive and negative and zero.
Yeah.
Integers, right? But if you multiply and divide, will you?
No.
So the integers are not closed on multiplication.
No.
You have to introduce new kinds of numbers. You can't just only work with whole numbers if you're going to introduce division.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you start to learn the theory behind things like this. And you go into things called groups and rings and fields and all kinds of really cool stuff. It's really interesting stuff, but it's like the basis of what we call group theory. So anyways, I learned this. And then I was like, oh, you can take certain principles and take them out of one system and apply them to another. And you get similar different things and so forth, right? So why is it that a Christian can't understand their starting point of God will save me and blah, blah, blah. And the Lamb of God, I am clean by the Lamb of God and the blood of the Lord and all this stuff. How is that not the same as the person going, oh, Johnson & Johnson will save us all, and we are cleaned and saved by the grace of their DNA alteration products and so forth? And like, how do you not see it's the same? First of all, how did the Christian not go, oh, I'm the same as a Muslim?
Yeah.
Like, they missed that one, but now it's like they really don't see it. It's like you saying that God is the authority is no different than the fucking CNN acolyte saying Fauci is the authority.
So it's cool.
You're afraid to question that.
It's cool that you brought up this point about like the math and like being able to see those things. Just like, what was it? Last weekend? Yeah, last weekend. We were out talking to these people, and this random woman, like we were walking around a lake. This random woman comes up to us, stops us, and it's like, she said something about like, the world is evil and you have built a house upon a lie. What happens when you build a house upon a lie? Like, what? And she's like, what happens when you build a house upon a lie? I'm like, it crumbles. She's like, yes, you should build a house upon math. I'm like, all right, that makes sense. Yeah, keep going. And she's like, if you walk away from me, you will go to hell. I'm like, lady, we're already in hell. Like, just open your eyes. She's like, this is not hell. You will see what true hell is. I'm like, all right, so what's your thing? Just share with me. Go ahead. And she's like, take this paper. I'm like, well, can't you just explain it to me? Like, what's the thing that you're looking to do here? She's like, I cannot explain it any more than I have. And I'm like, all right. Listen, lady.
You probably can't.
I'm like, yeah, right. I'm like, because here's the deal. We're actually doing something about this world. Like, we're making a difference. She's like, no, you are evil. I'm like, no, we're all evil. Yeah, for sure. But we're actually doing something about that.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And then she's like, what did she say? She's like, you have to build your house upon math. I'm like, okay, you keep saying that. You're just repeating the same thing now. Like, what do you mean by that? Like, she's like, well, math is real. I'm like, I'm following you. What is math? And she's like 1 + 1 = 2. I'm like, that's an example of math. What is math? Do you actually even know what math is? And she's like, she couldn't give me like any kind of definition or anything of what math is. And it was cool because I was talking with Christine about it later. I'm like, people don't know what math is. Like, it's so simple, but you go through school, you have all these years of like learning all these numbers and shit like that. And still you have no idea what math even is. Like, what is math? If you were to ask somebody, they would just tell you it's like 1 + 1 = 2 or something like that. Right. So we looked it up. We looked up the origins of math because, I have an idea of like math is just a logical way of thinking, right? It's a science of a logical way of thinking. And it involves numbers and everything, but it's just boiled down to the logical way of thinking. So we looked up the etymology of it. Math at the very root means to learn. And it's so interesting because when you look at math, what are you doing? You're taking a series of events or situations or pieces of logic, right? Which is really like words, right? It's a logical series of thinking. And you're able to put this together in a way that you can understand what the result is. Is that clear? Like you take a series of steps, whether it be in an equation or even like just
not just steps, it's the relationships between the different points.
Yes.
So understanding when you have different points in relationship to each other, what does that manifest? What's the consequence? What's the result? What does that look like? What does that imply?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's more than just the numbers. Beyond that, it's like, okay, it's how does this relate to that? This is what we're talking about as far as being able to see what's going on in the world and then being able to extrapolate like, oh, the result of this is going to be, like you were saying, the result is going to be, we're going to be in lockdown. You didn't know it was going to be a virus, but you could see what the end result was going to be. And it's funny.
No, but I did know it was lockdown.
Yeah.
Right. I knew there was going to become a point where the governments are just going to lock everybody up in their homes. And maybe that's what you said.
That is what
they're just going to lock everybody up. The how was irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, what was it going to be based on? Fear. So it's not about the virus. I'm trying to say it's like the virus is just the form that everybody has agreed upon. This is the image that if you use this image, you can then manipulate us through fear.
Okay. So here's what I wanted to add. You'll have to learn math, right? But what is math? Really, it's to learn, okay, what does that mean? It's like when you talk about like having logic, using logic, where does logic come from? Right?
Words.
Comes from logos, right? Words, exactly. So actually understanding the words and their relations and like actually knowing the words versus having just an emotional or like I don't know, I think this word means this, like where you can't even describe anything. That's where we're at right now. It's like kind of what you were saying before, with like 70% of people know that big pharma is like they're out for money, right? Well, if we were to put a percentage on it,
I think everyone knows that,
right?
Everyone knows it, but then some just feel justified about it.
Yeah.
And like, well, you have to have a profit motive, otherwise people wouldn't make it. And I like what Russell Brand said. I was watching his thing. He was like, well, maybe this is the one place at least where that's not the person you want there. Like,
right.
If you're doing it just for the money, like, just don't. Let's just not even do anything.
Right. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense, And like, at the end of the day, okay, why are we accepting all of that? Well, part of it is definitely because we have the wrong starting point, right? But then another big piece of that is just like that emotional interpretation of words, where it's like you don't know anything for certain. It's just like you kind of feel this way about things, and this I think means this, or it's close enough, whatever. So I'm going to go along with it. And there's no real certainty there. So there's no foundation really to stand on, you know? And so what that leads to then is we have this society of people who are just, I don't know if fluid is the right word. Well,
Gender fluid.
Yeah. But in a sense, like they're wishy-washy. They're willing to go along with whatever some authority or.
But even the ones who aren't, they're still going along with the authority too.
Yeah.
Even the ones who aren't just going along, the ones who would think they're pushing back aren't. And it's like, it's challenging because how do you communicate with someone who is like, okay, I'm not going to go along with this shit. I'm going to stand up and do something about it. But their solution is just, we just got to get the truth out to everybody. And it's like, well, what if I told you 60% of people, if you got them the truth, they would understand that it's true and still be okay with the result that we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then what do you do? Because then your solution of if everyone had the truth that would set them free is not a valid premise.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you agree there's many people in this world, perhaps a majority, if not half, that are okay with the truth of everything right now. And they understand the truth and they know. It's like, if you tell them, but the vaccine's killed 700 children, they'll be like, yeah, but how many children would have died if we didn't have the vaccine? Well, no one's actually died from COVID. Well, I mean, but it's a risk, you know, like that. You haven't questioned their fear. You haven't questioned your own fear. You're afraid of the jab as much as this person's afraid of the virus.
Yeah.
Think about that. How do I know they're afraid? Because they believe in God. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about this, like, why do people believe in God? It's like, as a child, your parents take care of everything for you. Mm-hmm. And they don't explain to you anything. And so it's like, there's just an authority that takes care of everything. The stuff I don't understand. But that's not true, is it?
No.
Because once you become an adult, you realize your parents don't know shit. They're just the same as you.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, why did I ever trust that authority?
Yeah.
And so what if you woke up one day and realized, oh, God is literally just a person like me?
It allows you to
know anything,
not take responsibility, right?
Like, and you might, I said the virus is God, right? But it's like, does that mean that they know it? It knows everything, or is it just like you?
Yeah.
And it's basically doing the same thing, going, look, if you're not going to fucking stand up, I'm just going to wreck everything that you think is real, because it's not. If it's not based on real principles or real principle, it's going to collapse. And I will help you. I will facilitate the collapse of that. I don't think any of you guys read that 3 Body Problem series when I was talking about it a long time ago, like last year or whatever.
No.
But in like the second or third book, I think, here's what they do, right? There's like these aliens, right? And they're in another civilization and they want to come invade the earth because their civilization, their world is not sustainable, basically, right? So they want to come here and they send things ahead of time to prepare their arrival. And one of the things that happens is they manifest somehow this robot, basically. And it's kind of like a beautiful woman, and it's basically their ambassador, and it helps. And she's like amazing. She does like amazing things and helps them cure like all disease. It's just whatever. It's like an amazing thing. But then at a certain point, when it's like time, she suddenly turns on everybody and like starts like just mass murdering people. And basically to the point where everyone's like, there's literally, we can shoot tanks at her and she can just like stop the bullets. Like, there's nothing we can fucking do. We just got to like give up. And then she takes all of humanity and puts them in Australia, and like it uses the UN to enforce a naval blockade so no one can leave the island of Australia. And like they put every country in different camps, and then they go and hunt down all the rest of the humans that like resisted and didn't want to be a part of, and like wouldn't go along with it. And so like they're hiding in caves and shit, trying to like do some underground resistance thing, and they eventually will get all of them, right? Because it's just a matter of time. Jeez. And it's funny. That's why I sent you guys that on our little group chat, that video. Yeah. Because like you look at what's happening in Australia. And I'm like, that book that I was telling you about was written in China, like by Xi Jinping. It's like a translation. It's a Chinese series of novels, right? And I'm like, look at what they're doing in Australia right now. They're literally putting up camps. They've got like the police, like there was basically what happened in Australia that video was about was they were interviewing people who were like kind of I think it was like a mall shopping center area. And all these people who were just shopping were being like stopped by the police multiple times, harassed, all this stuff, being searched, their cars searched, everything, because there was a freedom rally happening nearby. But they were only interviewing people who weren't a part of the rally. And the people were like, and you get this woman was like clearly distressed, like, this is insane. Like, this is not Australia, you know, like they were all being harassed because nearby a freedom rally was happening.
Why would they do that?
Ask yourself that. Why?
Because then you, the person who was not participating in the rally, hate those people in the rally for having done that.
Genius.
You know, so then
Because they asked this one woman who got arrested and fined and then let go. And even though she was shopping at a place within 5 kilometers of where she lived, and they knew that when they stopped her, they still arrested her. And then they said she was breaking the health order somehow. And they said, and the people was like, well, but were you here for the protest? Because she had like a tattoo. She almost looked like maybe she could be a protester, just kind of had that kind of like alternative look. And they were like, but were you here for the protest? She was like, hell no. Or like whatever her reaction was, like, absolutely not. Like you could tell people when they asked people, they were like, no, I'm not here to protest at all. Like, it's like punishing it's like when we were in the military, they would punish us if somebody else fucked up. So we'd all like fucking give that person shit and be like, stop fucking up.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, dude. Oh, I'm distressed. Just kidding.
It's ironic because how did Australia start?
As a criminal colony, right?
Your starting point's your ending point, am I right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
And didn't they like basically rape the fucking people who were like native to that place?
Yeah.
Like, and now the white people are like, oh, this is terrible. Like, we need to protest. Like, you guys you're trying to kill us. And it's like, oh yeah, but you like shit on Black Lives Matter. And you said black the blue and all this stuff. Hey, and we shit on Black Lives Matter too, because it's not a solution. Like I said before, I agree with some of the grievances. I don't agree with all the transgender actual hidden agenda of it, but you know,
actually,
I agree with the fact that
Black Lives Matter now is anti-vax or anti this vaccine.
Well, because why?
Because Black people are very hesitant to get any kind of experimental vaccine.
And how do the white liberals feel about the Black people now who are vaccine hesitant?
Well,
They
now
don't
they
matter anymore.
no dart
Like, fuck you guys. You're just uneducated, dumb people. Like, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, so you're actually racist.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, the Black people don't have like maybe a reason to be a little bit hesitant about medical experimentation from the government.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
you know, they tested syphilis
Yeah.
on Black people.
Yeah. In Tuskegee. Right. Which
the,
is like
the MMR vaccine was shown to have higher like adverse reaction rates with Black people, and then they
That's been totally discredited. That's been totally discredited by the pharmaceutical industry. I saw a thing from Russell Brand today saying that he was doing a video on the fact that these fact checkers who are fact checking the vaccine information are being paid by Johnson & Johnson.
Wow.
Like, duh. And imagine someone just being like, yeah, that's fine. Like, they should. I mean, they're the ones who would know. There's no truth that's going to fucking wake people up. So here's my point. Like, and I want to hear more about this rally thing because it's good stuff. My point wasn't to be like, oh, why are you wasting your time at the rallies? You know that. It's not that. It's for anybody else listening to realize it's not to not have the rallies. It's not to not go to them and share information. It's just to realize that in itself is not the solution.
Yeah.
It's not the solution. It's things you need to know, but the solution is taking personal responsibility. What are you going to say, Dre?
On that, just before you go, Mitch, Christine was showing me this guy in Toronto who, like, I don't know his name or anything, but apparently he's been deplatformed from everywhere. But he like goes to gyms, or he went to a gym and just like did a protest at this gym, and then basically got the gym to stop requiring vaccine passports or vaccines or whatever. And then everyone could go to that gym again. And so this guy was like doing some event in Toronto, and he was speaking. He's like, hey, I can't do all the rallies. Like, this is stupid. Like, this rally isn't what changes things. You have to get up and go do something. You have to be a leader yourself. Like, what? Are you expecting me to go to every freaking gym and do the same thing? Like, I can't do that. That's not possible. You want me to go to every restaurant? That's not going to happen. Like, you have to lead yourselves. You have to stand up and do something about this yourselves. And it was just like a really cool point that he was making of just like, this is not the solution. Like, he was very self-aware that, like, okay, I'm sharing all this information, but you coming here and getting a good feeling isn't my end goal. My end goal is to get you to actually do something about it.
Sounds like it was Chris Guy.
Oh, that sounds like that guy. He's like a blonde-haired guy.
Yeah. So he was the
someone
guy
might think,
at the very beginning.
Yeah.
He was at the very when they were saying you need a test and all that stuff when you come back from Canada and the hotel stopover and all that stuff. He was recording himself being like, no, I'm a Canadian citizen. I refuse the test.
Yeah.
I refuse the hotel quarantine. He's like, and all you who are Canadian citizens, you can just say no. You don't have to wait in that line. Like, he was doing that video, right? And so he's going on this, I don't know, speaking kind of tour kind of thing. Toronto, Ottawa, probably other places as well. And he's like, look, this never fucking changes anything. And I'm hearing the secondhand information from other people who are there. He's like, this doesn't change anything. I don't remember what a solution.
Well, there is a solution.
Like,
there is only one solution. There is not multiple solutions. There's only one solution because there's only one way to solve it that's best. It's exactly what we're doing. And that doesn't mean we're against those other people. That's not what it's about. It's just they're saying, hey, they're the ones being very vocal about what's the problem. And they're bringing people together who realize there's a problem. But then those individuals need to stand up. And it's not, they need to go to the local bar and the local establishment and tell them to stop requiring and so forth, because they can do that, but all they're trying to do is exert pressure on them. The solution is, here's the real solution. You need to take responsibility for educating children to be their own authority. And if you taught your child that there's a God, you failed. Because you can't tell the child that there's no authority but you. You don't, and then tell them, but the authority is God. Because they can't see God. They can't talk to God. And if you think you talk to God, guess what? I have some bad news for you. You might want to talk to your doctor because you're schizophrenic. Because when you understand how your mind works, you understand it's all a projection coming from within you based on how your programming is constructed. So if you've programmed yourself with religious information, it will speak to you as religious information. Go listen. You can say, oh, no, I speak to God all the time. I hear him talk to me. Yeah, go on YouTube and search in, I am schizophrenic. Here's my story. And you will see lots of people who talk to God. No joke. And they will be very convincing about it. And I mean, what, am I supposed to believe you, but not them? Everyone has a voice in their head. Does that voice support you to actually stand up and do what is best? Because here's the major problem is it doesn't really matter what the adults think right now. It's the children. You see what I'm saying? It's the children that are being programmed right now, because you're not, like, you're an adult, and the only reason you're resisting this is because you saw a world before the lockdown being a thing. But a child who was just born today or last year has never seen anything else, except, of course, the government tells you when you can leave your house or not. Of course, people are all afraid of a virus and you wear a mask when you go to the store. Like, you don't understand how it's having an impression on them. And you might say, well, we'll just resist it. We won't do it. It's not majority rule. It's minority rule. Think about it. The people who run our government and make policies, is that the majority or the minority?
Minority.
And you might say, well, but the majority vote for them. No, they don't, because the majority of people don't even vote. And all they have to do is emotionally manipulate enough dumbasses to vote for them. So you might say, well, I'll run for office. Well, yeah, good. Do that. But then you need a bunch of people who understand what you're saying and what is your actual solution. It can't just be stand up and resist. The part of standing up in your life individually and saying no to things is important. I'm not discounting that or downplaying that, but it won't affect the system. It won't change the system, because who owns all the stuff that you need? The people you agree with, who agree with you. So it doesn't matter if you get every small business to stop mandating the masks, because they'll just put more pressure and more pressure and more pressure to where that business can't function anymore. And then guess what? The only business that's allowed to be open is LA Fitness, because their corporation will apply all the stuff. And you're not going to be able to go convince the manager because he's just got a job. You're not talking to the fucking guy who makes the decisions. And there won't be any more food restaurants. All you're going to do is help the government identify who's the threat, because they won't make people wear masks, and then they can get rid of them. And then you just got McDonald's, because they'll make everybody wear masks. They're already shown that they're willing to manipulate everybody through love and all the other stuff anyways. So the solution is a individual responsibility and a collective. Somebody was talking about that recently. I forget who it was. I feel like it was Passive, or somebody was specifically talking about this point, right? But it's like, you have to, if people don't have Technotutor, I mean, how can I say it more clearly? If people don't have Technotutor, they won't be able to remove all those little tiny hidden biases and programs that will eventually activate and will cause them to fall on a point where the authority has enough ability to impose fear. And the biggest one is not knowing how to let go of the point of God taking care of you and making everything okay after you die. If you can walk through that fear and you don't fear that anymore, and you say, well, I don't fear it because I have God on my side. You still fear it. It's like with my kids. When they say, can you come with me in the dark to go get some water? I'm like, no. I'll go with you one time and I'll show you that there's nothing to fear. But after that, I'm not doing it anymore, because if you just have me with you, that's not you being brave. That's me, having me to feel comfortable. Because there is nothing to hurt you in the dark. As long as you're careful where you step and everything, there's nothing there. There's no reason to be afraid of it. You see what I mean? So if you have God on your side, you're like, there's some all-powerful being that will just take care of me. It's like, but then they would have already done it. Well, this is just a test. But how many Christians have had to go through that test throughout eons of time, and it still hasn't, it's getting worse? They're just waiting for you because you're so special. Because if you don't actually stand up, and when I say actually stand up, I mean, it's not like we're at a rally going, you have to just stand up. We've been very clear, specific about what we mean by stand up. It's not protest. Go to the protest and meet people and connect, but then build your local self-perfected community. Use the tools. Because if you're not building your vocabulary and then removing all the bullshit that's in you as an adult, and you're not walking the process of removing and forgiving yourself of all the points that you need to, and removing all the points where you're not taking absolute responsibility as an authority within yourself, then what that collectively manifests is permission for someone who's ruthless to be the authority. And that game has been going on for eons of time. If you, as Christians, knew who you were actually worshiping, you would be sick to your stomach. If you understood the God that you're worshiping, who he actually is, you would be sick to your stomach. Truly. So you have to let go of all authority. That doesn't mean you can't be an authority on something. Like, I'm an authority on raising kids who are geniuses. Does that mean people have to do everything I say? No, it just means when I speak about it, I know what the fuck I'm talking about. But you can be an authority on it, and you can be an authority on it, and you can be an authority. It's not I'm the authority. I'm just an authority on it. I know. And you know I know. You know what I mean? Like, there's no... But it's not because I have a degree. The problem is, we say if you have a person has a degree, they're an authority. But then when that person disagrees with the rest, then we say, well, they're just a crackpot. It's like, but they have the degree. And that's why you're saying those people should be trusted, because they have the degree and they have the same degree, but this person disagrees. But it's just, what you're really saying is the ones who support the current system, that's who I agree with. Mm-hmm. And if God created this world, who created this system?
God.
Just the fallen ones? Like, give me a break. Like, if your shit is so good, why would somebody go somewhere else? Because I gave them freedom. Well, if you gave them freedom, then why are you upset about what they're doing about it now?
That's some poor judgment.
You see what I'm saying? Like, you didn't educate them properly, because if it was my children, if Adam and Eve were my children, I would have fucking made sure they were smart as fuck and they could see the consequence of what they were doing. And they might make some mistakes, but they wouldn't be eternal mistakes. They would very quickly be like, oh, no, mistake. God, we saw our mistake. Let us back in the garden. We're not going to do it again. I see clearly. Let me prove to you. No, sorry. Never come back. Too late. You ate from the tree. I told you I ate from the tree, but you didn't tell me what the fucking tree was. You just gave me some vague fucking weird explanation of it's the tree of knowledge of good and evil. I didn't know what the fuck no, good and evil are, because I didn't have the knowledge already, you dumb fuck. Like, why didn't you teach me? You know what I mean? It's how could you hear all that and then be like, that's all reasonable. That's a reasonable story for me to live my whole fucking life by. I mean, the Christians especially better be careful, because like they're creating themselves as the fucking new oppressed class, like by design. They're like, we're going to follow a playbook that says we're going to be like, it's funny because when I was growing up, my grandparents on my mom's side, they're really cool people. But they're also religious. They have that programming of like God and all that. And we've had many conversations where I explain to them why I don't believe in God, but it's like, they can't hear it. They can't process it. Right. And I remember when I was growing up, like they would have all these videos and they were like these Christian videos. I don't remember who made them. There was actually somebody, it's like a famous actor, but I just can't remember who it is. Remember, if I remember, I'll tell you. But they're like about the end times. So there'd be all these like movies, you could probably find them. And it'd be like about the mark of the beast. And like, there'd be like these Christians and like, suddenly there'd be a one world government. And they would like, it's going to oppress the Christians. You're going to have to like hide the fact that you're Christian. And like, it's going to be you against the system and all this stuff. And like, that's what Christians have been programming themselves with for a long time. And then you see it now happening.
Was it the actor who did like, he was Hercules? That actor? You know who I'm talking about?
Kevin Sorbo? No, because I wouldn't have recognized him at the time. Oh, no, I was going to say Kevin Costner, but it's not Kevin Costner. Maybe. No, it's not Kevin. I would have known that name. It was somebody else that I recognized. And there would every once in a while be some relatively well-known actors in these things. Man, if I can remember, I'll tell you. But it was like, remember like the whole Left Behind series? Do you remember that when that became very popular? It was kind of like the same kind of thing as that, right?
Okay.
But my point is like, yeah, people are programming themselves with this stuff in the same sense of 1984, predicting where everything is going to go and so forth. And I think the biggest thing for people to challenge, and you know, I was listening to an audio from Bernard. I can't remember what it was. It just like auto played on my phone when I plugged it in to my car. And he was talking about the whole thing about love and the hippie movement and all that stuff, and how it just became a word that was manipulated into consumerism and everything. And that point of just, it's like the same thing with the word God. It's like, oh, no, that's what it was. He was talking about how you'll have a conversation with someone and they'll have some common sense and it'll make sense what they're saying and they'll see the problem and everything. And you get to a certain point. And he said, but they'll always at the end of it, when responsibility comes in, they'll revert back to, but love is the answer. Mm-hmm. And you guys have seen this many times. And I learned that a lot through arguing with spiritual people on Facebook, is they always, and I proved it to myself sufficiently that they're always going to revert to that. But it's the same thing with God. Now, the difference though, with the Christians is they have some balls. Like they'll actually, in a lot of cases, stand up, and you know what I mean? The problem is because they don't have a solution, what will happen is you'll have one nut job who will do something, and the system will use that to justify to the other people who seek their nut job, all of them are nut jobs, to justify it as why they need to be locked down even more. And, you know, when you have somebody who's so well-researched, then talk about, well, you know, because this guy saw this dude naked, that's why it created all this chain of events that led to the people having the wrong DNA and stuff. And you're like, that doesn't make sense, actually, because I'll just go back to the very beginning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then the problem is if I'm like, well, you can't question it because God said so. I'm like, there's no God. Now it's like, now what? Prove to me first that there's a God. Well, you have to prove for yourself. How are you going to use that argument to somebody about COVID?
Yeah.
Because it's not about you proving it to yourself. It's about you're trying to convince other people. You see what I mean? Asif is messaging me, but I don't know what he means. Did he message you guys?
No.
No, I don't think so.
He said, yo, can.
Yo, Cam.
Maybe
Yo,
he
Cam?
mean Cam?
Yo, Cam.
Oh, he's messaging me about something else. Okay.
Yeah. So how about this for some predictive programming? This is what everyone should do. And what we will do is adopt the principles, live them, be living examples, step up in the world system, take responsibility, and change everything. So that is best for all. You do that by creating a system and by educating kids to implement it. There's the predictive program.
Nice.
Rise up and revolt. That's all I heard.
God's gonna save the day.
Anything else you want to share
It's
about
like fact checkers. You cannot change a system. You must believe in God.
Like, do you need God as a part within you and on your side to stand up in this world?
No, it's the realizing the common sense that everything that's here is God.
But what I'm saying, I'm speaking to the Christians. Like, do you need God to be able to do it? If you're saying, well, if God's not on your side, what if there was no God? Then what would you do? And let yourself play that out for just a moment. And if your answer is, well, I would just have all would be lost and there'd be no point. That's my point. That's my point. Because you're not actually standing. You're actually just acting out of fear. You see the difference? Because I don't believe in that. And I don't have all hope lost. And I'm standing up. Explain that. And I'm showing how to educate children. So you don't have to put your kids in school. That's what we're doing. You don't have to put your kids in school. Guys, my son is still not even 5 years old. Like, I don't even know what to say. People didn't seem to be impressed. Some did, some didn't. When he could read at a first grade level right before he was 3. I remember this one guy on YouTube going, well, that's not technically a 3rd grade level. And I'm like, dude, apparently this guy's like a 4th grade gym teacher. I'm like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, first of all. And it's like, okay. All right. So maybe he wasn't reading at a 1st grade level, according to your bullshit, when he was almost 3. Well, now he's almost 5, not even. And the kid can do fucking basic algebra. If I told him what's 57 plus 23, he'll work it out in his head. No math, no paper, no fingers, nothing. And within seconds, he'll tell you the answer. He knows almost like half of his multiplication tables at this point. He can add, subtract. He can do all that stuff. He can read at a very advanced level. I keep saying high school level, but the problem is people don't really know what that means. Because most high schoolers can't read at a high school level.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, they can't. They can pronounce the words, but they don't know what the fuck it means. The kid is super advanced. So it's like, okay, so maybe if you weren't impressed by, he could almost read at a 1st grade level when he was almost 3. Now he's almost 5. And most kids his age and years ahead of him, well, let's just say his age. Most kids his age, guys, don't even know the alphabet. Think about that. Where Max is at. And most kids his age don't even know what my daughter knows, and she's not even 3 yet. And when I say know the alphabet, I don't mean know the alphabet song. I mean, they literally, you can show them the letters of the alphabet one by one, and they know them without even hesitating. Yeah. Just like if I showed you a picture of a dog versus a cat, you're not going to be like, cat? No, you're going to be like, that's a cat. Dog, 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 cat, cat, dog, dog, cat, 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 dog. You know, you're going to fucking know. Like if you show the letter R to a kid and they're like, R? And they're looking at you to see if like they're guessing right. Like that's not, they know their alphabet. And most kids in kindergarten don't know that.
Right.
And Max is already way beyond 4th grade. Now he's in 4th grade math and he's way beyond 4th grade in reading. He's at the point where most kids, the signs of them struggling with reading start to show up in terms of where he's at, in terms of his school grade level, in terms of his understanding and knowledge and abilities. He's at the point where most kids would start to show signs of struggle, which they hadn't shown the whole time. So my point is, what is this really all about? Okay. 5 minutes left, 5 points. Point 1, it's about the proper education for yourself, for your family, for your children, first of all. Because without education, you can't do anything. The truth will not set you free if you don't have education. Because the truth will be interpreted by your shitty education. Point 2,
Family.
Family. Thank you, Jake. I was like, family? Family. Because without a stable family, how are you going to support your children? You as a man, you have no purpose. Because as a man, you need a woman to support you, and you need a woman to support you to mature, because until then, you're a boy. And as a woman, you need someone to provide and take care of you while you raise the kids. Stable family, emotionally stable, with proper education. Okay? Now, you take those 2 points. Alone is not enough. Then you have community. Imagine multiple of these families. So your community is no longer just random people that you know because you're in school, because you're not in school. So how are you going to connect people now? It's going to be based on something else, which is purpose. You have the same purpose. It's the same reason 20 people showed up at your house at a moment's notice, right, Asif? Because they were like, hey, we all have the same purpose. I love being together with all of you. So you have education, you have family, you have a community of these types of people that are like you, that are educating their children and taking responsibility, and you have a common purpose. And at the top of all of that, you have what all of that enables, which is actual freedom, real freedom, because you've taken responsibility for all the prerequisites of it. So now freedom isn't protesting. If your whole life is about protesting shit, you're not free. If your whole life is about how do I get into here without a mask and here without a passport, you're not free. That's not freedom. Freedom is not a feeling. Freedom is a responsibility, because are you free to actually stand up in this world? And if you don't have an effective education, you're not free to stand up, because you're not even going to know what to do. Because if you're not going to do even a fucking billionth of a percent in one day as to what Bill Gates does in a day, you'll never catch up to him. Just Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, and Elon Musk. Those 5 guys in one day do more than you can do in 15 billion years, because they have a different education than you, but they don't have the same purpose, do they? Which is why what they're doing with their time is kind of fucked. So we have all those points, and it makes a freedom, because what's the symbol of freedom?
Star Spangled Banner.
It's a star, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
So if you take those 5 points and it makes a 5-pointed star, right?
Yep.
Now if you put a circle around that, you know what you get? You get the beginning seed of the equal money system. You can't just impose a system from the top down. We already have that. That's why everyone fears utopia, because they're afraid of the system imposing on them. But we already have that. Look at Australia. This is each person within themselves resonating this symbol, and all of that inside of everybody, taking responsibility for all those points. That is what Self-Perfected is about. It's those points. And we have the tools to support a person at each one of those points. And all we're doing is doing that for ourselves and creating communities where we can support each other to do exactly that. And as we eventually start doing major, events that people can come to, that'll be the core messaging that we're always supporting people with. It's never going to change from that. It'll always be that. It's always going to be about you taking responsibility to create an environment of freedom for yourself and everybody else. And if everyone takes that collective responsibility, see, we're the opposite of the system. The system is saying, what is the word the system is impulsing?
Safety, security.
Safety and security. But we're resonating freedom. Freedom to say what you want because what you want is best. Freedom to do what you want because what you want is best. Not justifying it after the fact, but you actually want what is best. So that's what you're doing. So why would you not be free why should you not be free to do what you want to do? Should you be free to abuse?
No.
You shouldn't. And that's what the system is saying. We got to secure everybody, because everyone's saying we just want safety and security. If they resonate freedom, the system will have to adjust to give us that. That's the 5 points. So we finally got to it at the end. And I know, Mitch, you got to go. So you guys want to wrap it up, or what? Who wants to close it up?
Let's go, homies. Like, there's only one solution. If you don't have, it's just take the next step. If you don't have Technotutor, get Technotutor. If you have Technotutor, you use the fuck out of it so you see the change in your life. Once you see that, start sharing with people. Then we can create communities around that so that we can take the next step. Mm-hmm. That's where we're at right now. If you're focused on anything else, it's a bunch of bullshit. Mm-hmm. Reach out to us if you disagree. Let's talk. Other than that, you should know what to do by this point.
Join the Facebook group if we haven't said that in a while. So like if you've been, listening to this podcast and you're like, man, these guys are cool. Love to talk with them or whatever, or reach and find out what this community is about. Join us on Facebook. We're at Self Perfected. If you just search that on Facebook, you'll find our group. It's pretty popular.
Yeah. And man, we have a massive, as things get more chaotic in the world, we take on more responsibility. So we have massive fucking plans. So become a part of it now so that you can grow with us. So till next time. See you later.
Bye.
Cool. Bye, everyone.